6:01 p.m. I am calling the May 10th, 2022 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Here.
Councilmember Ricky.
Present.
Councilmember Conoyer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton.
Here.
And Mayor Zwellen.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Mike Gunnarsson from City Ministry Network.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for this opportunity to pray. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for another day. Thank you for our community and for the beauty around us and the resources you have given us as a community. Thank you for the freedoms that we have as a country in which we are free to have a voice in the governing process. I pray for our city, Modesto. Even though there are many blessings around us, we also know that there are many needs and challenges. I pray that those who live here in our valley, who are broken, addicted, and living without hope, those who have lost jobs and are struggling to get by, those who own struggling businesses and are personally struggling with their health, I pray that they would find joy and hope, health, provision, and a deep sense of community and fulfillment in their lives. I pray that the broken parts of our community would find restoration. I pray that families would thrive, businesses would prosper, our schools would flourish, farms would richly produce, and neighborhoods would experience peace and healthy relationships. May this truly be a great city to grow up in and to grow old in for every citizen. I pray for our leaders who are here this evening. I ask that you would bless them. I pray that you would bless their families, their friendships, their health, and their businesses. I pray especially for Jenny Conoyer tonight. Protect them and lead them. May each of them come to know the depth of your love for each of them. And I pray that you would give them wisdom and insight and integrity as they lead with courage and unity and humility. Guide their discussion and their decisions on every agenda item this evening. I ask this all in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor. Email correspondence was received and forwarded to the council.
Thank you. It was received. Thank you. Do any of the council members have any conflicts of interest?
No.
Thank you. Will the city attorney report out on closed session, please?
Yes, Mayor. The council met today in closed session to discuss labor negotiations. No reportable action was taken.
Thank you. Next is acknowledgements and presentations. And the first is a proclamation proclaiming May 15th as International Day of Families. It states, "Family is not an important thing, it's everything," by Michael J. Fox. The United Nations believed families important enough to recognize them through a day of observance, and in 1993 chose May 15th as International Day of Families. As parents, we want to give our children the best start in life we can. The foundation created in a family has been shown in numerous studies to dramatically impact a child's success. The more stable the family environment for a child, the more likely they will be healthier, both mentally and physically. Communities all over the world face obstacles that jeopardize the stability of the family. The UN recognized this and went on to establish this day of observance, and each year choose family-focused themes to address worldwide challenges around education, poverty, health, and work-family balance. This year's theme is families and urbanization. and aims to raise awareness of the importance of sustainable and family-friendly urban policies. Now therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor, do hereby proclaim May 15th as International Day of Families in the City of Modesto and encourage our residents to learn about some of the social, economic, and demographic factors impacting families and to participate in activities that strengthen and celebrate all the traditions that you and your families share. My understanding is that Lori Shoemaker is here. Great. Project Director for the Center for Human Services. Would you like to make any remarks? If not, we will step down. Otherwise, the microphone is yours. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I appreciate that. I'll keep it brief, but only to say just we're honored to accept this acknowledgement, certainly on behalf of Center for Human Services, but all of our civic and community partners that we work with. There are a lot of folks out there that are doing great work to strengthen families and make sure that all kinds of families have what they need. So thank you again for acknowledging this and for inviting us.
You're very welcome. So we will step down to give you the proclamation.
And why don't we scoot over here a little bit? Oh, do you? Thank you. One of those should work. Appreciate that. I'll stay over here.
All right, the next is a proclamation proclaiming May 15th to 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week. This year's theme recognized that public works professionals are always ready to serve their communities and resilient as ever in their abilities to pick themselves up off the ground after encountering challenges. The City of Modesto's Public Works Department constructs and maintains public infrastructure and transportation systems to the highest standard of excellence and accountability. And those facilities and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who represent the City of Modesto. And those individuals build, operate, and maintain the transportation and traffic systems and other services that are vital to the citizens of Modesto. And it is important to the community that citizens and civic leaders understand the role that a well-maintained public infrastructure plays in protecting the environment, improving public health and safety, contributing to the economic vitality, and enhancing the quality of life of every community. Now, therefore, I, Suze Wallen, Mayor of the City of Modesto, California, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through the 21st, 2022 as National Public Works Week in the City of Modesto, and I call upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and recognize the contributions that public works employees make every day in support of our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. I would like to call Bill Sandu forward to accept this proclamation and make a few remarks, if you'd like.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. I'm Bill Sandhu, Public Works Director. Just wanted to thank our Public Works team for their great work they do every day or night, rain or sunshine. They're there to provide essential services to our residents, to our community, and ensure that our infrastructure is properly operating and functioning. And thank you for the great work you do every day. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We will come down and take a picture. All right, next on the agenda is item 3, consider appointing Amanda J. Heitlinger to the Modesto Downtown Improvement District Board of Directors for a 4-year term to expire January 1st, 2026. Are there any questions from council members? Seeing none, any comments from the public regarding this item? I see one hand raised. I don't know that it's about this particular item. Jesse Vasquez?
Hi, no, sorry, this is regarding a different item.
Okay, thank you. No other public comments. Do I have a motion and a second?
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion from Vice Mayor Wright, second from Councilmember Scudia-Brayton. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia-Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwollen.
Aye, so the motion carries. Item 4, consider approving Alan Ramsey for the vacant position of small aircraft owner / general aviation for the Modesto City County Airport Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. Any questions from council members? Comments from the public? Seeing none, comments from council members? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
All right, motion from Councilmember Canoyer,
Second.
second from Councilmember Scudia-Brayton. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia-Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwollen.
Aye, carries unanimously, 6-0. All right, next is public comment period. I see a request to speak. Each person has 3 minutes, and this is for items not on the council agenda. First, Maggie Countryman. Welcome.
Good evening. You're going to hear a very harsh truth from Mr. French, regarding Mr. French, and regarding Oscar Diaz. A truth that the city manager and the city attorney need to be honest with the city council, with the police chief. It's very important to the chief of police that this be resolved according to building safety, which is Suite 3100. I was in court with, her name is Karen Watson, and so Mr. Sanchez, that's who you coordinate with, Ms. Watson, on regarding, what do you term it, risk management. So you can know that. And I lay awake every night under this building knowing that you lied to me, knowing that you lied to this council on 11/12/13. Oh, here, Ms. Perez, here are the two documents. What happened, my husband gave me an old envelope that I said, I don't even want to hear from them right now. These two, 11/12/13, City Council, Building Department came to you and said this building was ordered removed. That's what he said to this council. And then planning read in a site plan. They did a little, what would you call it, the game you play. So, the building was ordered removed, and now we know that it was the county. Oscar says the county's not playing. County refuses to play. Their CED version, their planning version, no, they're not going to play. They told Jim Mack, they told Mike Allen, and they told all the neighbors to F off. Leave us alone. Don't have anything to do with you. Don't speak to you. Don't have anything to do with you. Tony Madrigal, I was going to help him on his campaign. I went home and thought about it. Do you know how insulting it is for him to tell me that he doesn't want me to tell you that I talked to him because he wants to be in on the negotiations? I started thinking about that. How insulting. I'm not going to talk to the city attorney or the city manager until they come to me. Oh, and I don't know you, Mr. Ricky. Hi, I think you're my person. So you would have gotten the documents. Everybody has them. Police chief has them. Discovery is out there. Now you need to decide what you want to do about this. I'm sorry for you. I'm really sorry for you.
Thank you. Next, I see online Jesse Vasquez.
Hello, Mayor, Council. How are you guys today? Hopefully doing well. My name is Jesse Vasquez. I had spoken to you all several weeks back regarding the short-term rental ordinance that has been in effect now for quite some time. And I am just wanting to connect with you guys because it doesn't seem like there's anything on the agenda yet for discussion. But I do want to clarify that there are several cities that are within a 40-mile proximity that have adopted short-term rental rules, like Lodi, California, Sacramento, Fresno, Clovis. All those areas have adopted short-term rental rules. Myself, as an investor, I run short-term rentals. I also manage short-term rentals for other folks. And this ordinance has completely closed my business. And there's a lot of operators that are in the city of Modesto and that operate for travel nurses like myself and many others who do not feel this is fair in a lot of ways. We also know that there's connections between the council, a large hotel, which obviously is a huge conflict of interest. So I really want to make sure that we can all come up with an agreement to hopefully have these short-term rentals regulated in a way that's fair for not only myself, other operators, but for the city of Modesto. So Airbnb has brought in, short-term rentals have brought into the city of Modesto $2.8 million from 2021 to 2022. Now, if the city can adapt rules and regulations for TOT taxes, that is quite a bit of taxes for the city that could be used for roadways, obviously the homeless population, all those specific things. So I really hope that the council can sit down, have an actual discussion about this ordinance and maybe regulate it again in a sense that's going to make sense for everybody. Going back to what I've mentioned before, I specifically work and connect with travel medical professionals. There's obviously severely understaffed in this market. For those of you who don't know, the Central Valley has a nursing shortage and has had it even pre-COVID for quite many years. So that's the clientele that I serve for the properties that I have. But again, mentioning that there's other short-term rental operators. In the city of Modesto right now, there are 88 short-term rentals. That is including people that have individual homes that they live in, that are renting out detached units, ADUs, et cetera. And those, to my understanding, are okay to operate as a short-term rental as long as somebody lives on site. But I do hope that the council can get together, sit down, have these discussions. Again, since there is somebody that is attached to the council that has a hotel, which obviously is a huge conflict of interest for anybody regulating, for anybody, there's just a big conflict there. And I think that we really need to have a discussion on how we can best accommodate everybody where it makes sense and hopefully have a cap on this ordinance. So thank you. I appreciate for giving me the 3 minutes to speak, and I look forward to something in the future.
All right, you're welcome. Next, I have Louisa Bryant.
Mayor, members of the council, I have a presentation, it might take 4 minutes. I have a problem, but if that's okay. That's, might as well. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, boy. I have appeared before the council on March 8th of this year for help in referring me to the proper individuals or agents who could intervene and advocate on the behalf of a disabled senior citizen. Unfortunately, the department I was referred to is not the correct department for my problem, but they did try their best to put me in contact with the other departments they believed could help me. Tonight, those folders, Diane, they have to see those folders, the red ones. I'm sorry. That's, take it off the 3 minutes, I hope. Tonight I'm here to apprise the panel of just how difficult receiving this much needed assistance has been. I provided the panel with 2 folders. Each folder holds copies of separate mold inspection reports. The one dated March 21st, 2022 was the one hired by the owners of the apartment complex I reside in. This highly questionable report was completed after the owners, who were instructed by the City of Modesto Building Inspector's Department that they needed a permit to repair the patio roof and a contractor to inspect the patio walls. Maintenance had previously cleaned the patio without a permit. I asked the panel to examine what I believe on this March 21st, what I believe is a deceptive and incomplete report with a total of 12 pages, 2 of which are sparse and with inadequate amount of written details as to the property information or any analysis. It discloses no factual information that would be expected in a usual inspection report. 10 pages are pre-printed material. Sadly, this haphazard report has been accepted and recorded by the city as correct and without any discussion as to its validity. The second mold inspection dated April 12th was a company hired by me. I was forced to do this after I had attempted to get a second inspection by the owners and was told at that time that the city had notified the owners they had until April 16th for the owners, to have a contractor, inspector, repairs and reports completed, this time with a permit, giving owners almost a month to complete these responsibilities. No inspectors repairs, or reports were ever completed, and it was then that I was forced to hire a reputable company. Their report, as you can see in the second folder, includes 12 pages of factual details relating to the property information and analysis, 38 pages of prepared material. All this in a professional and informative report. I have been appealing to the personnel at City Hall for almost 3 months for their help in resolving this mold issue, the danger to my health with the severe symptoms I suffer because of the allergic reaction in my age. I have provided the panel you have with an 8-page, no, I don't have, I gave you all the copies, that was, okay. Anyway, I have provided the panel with an 8-page chronological list of telephone calls and personal contacts, copied directly from my journal, which I've been forced to write notes. Okay, if you don't believe what I write on there, you can check my
Okay, Louisa?
journal. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I don't mean.
No,
I
no, no,
have
no, it's
journal.
okay. I know, it's
But
difficult
this is
for you
so
to speak.
important. It's only one page. I mean, I'll speak very quickly.
Well, I'm afraid you're getting short of breath, and I don't
No,
want you
that's
to.
okay. That's okay.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
But it's
'Cause we
important
have-
to hear this.
we have-
It's very important. Anyway, I have the feeling, okay, for 3 months we're helping resolving this mold. And the telephone calls are copied from my journal. All 8 pages are contacts with the city, not medical, not doctors, not tests, not labs and all. So if I gave them to Diane, you can read through them if you want. Okay. When you have read through the 8 pages of notes, you may understand the unnecessary stress and anxiety that I have experienced these past 3 months. This is the last page. The importance of a valid and uncompromising mold report is not only the legality, but to be relocated by Project Sentinel, I must have a doctor's note telling them that my health was deteriorating due to my living conditions. But unfortunately, the research information, and you can do this in your own, and I'm quoting what I found, is that, quote, the issue with mold allergies or poisoning is that up until recently, doctors and other medical professionals would tell their patients their symptoms were all in their head. However, as more studies show, the effects of mold are very real and even life-threatening to some individuals who are more susceptible. Two of the susceptible are allergies and age and elderly. I have the allergy, and I'm returning 86 this month. So, and the mycotoxin research, which is mold exposure, research is still in its infancy, and testing is not well validated. To get this note, I have to have a mold. I have been referred to at least 5 specialists just in the last 3 months that I've been working with the city, and have been tested for these symptoms that they can identify, the doctors can identify. These tests include x-rays, CT scans, ultrasounds, blood tests, smear tests, pulmonary function tests. I need someone with the authority to accept the results of the latest that I showed you, that latest mold test, and correct this error in my case and have someone do this and help me, because it should help me with the doctors. Right now, the city says, in that 2-page analysis, not even 2-page, one, that there is no mold. You showed, I just left pictures in there for you to see the pictures I saw.
I passed those out so that everyone could see them.
And this breathing problem is one of the most severe symptoms of mold exposure. So until I get treated for mold exposure, and the city admits that a mistake was made, and the owners, they told me, and you will see in those lists, the notes that I gave you, that the owners are supposedly working to relocate me. They had a month to do inspections. They didn't do it. And they had 3 weeks to tell me that they're going to move me into something pertinent. Not one word. And I'm sorry, I have no control.
Okay.
I'm really a lady, and I really do talking, speak in a
All right.
better tone.
I appreciate you sharing your comments. We have the folders. I did share them with all the council members. I think at this point, I'm going to,
Excuse me.
it's all right. Take your time. Yeah, gather your things, and maybe we can take those folders. And Jalen French is here,
Yes,
and I know you mentioned him.
I spoke with him.
So,
Please help. Please,
okay,
because
we'll
I
do our
cannot.
best to follow up and do what we can.
It's-
Do you mind, Jalen?
It's
if
all in
you-
the city.
Okay. All right.
Thank
He'll
you.
have a conversation with you and follow up
Okay,
at a
God bless
future
you.
time.
Thank you very much for
Thank-
listening.
thank you.
Because I have to get some help. And I
Okay.
had to go to the cost of getting my own reputable company.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So those folders, do we have those? And we can, okay, give those to Jalen and then, all right, thank you. All right, next, public comment, Vanessa Parks. Vanessa? I see, all right, I see the,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes, now we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Parks, and I am a Modesto resident, and I am just calling, I'm speaking today about the short-term rental ordinance that the City of Modesto is currently following. I was just hoping to see if we could have some of the verbiage in the ordinance reviewed and made a little bit more clarification for that, and possibly updates to it if this policy is dated. As I spoke with, I believe her name is either Stephanie or Bethany, part of the City of Modesto's force to go after the people that have been operating. It sounds like the policies were written long before the short-term rentals have become popular and become a need. So if we can get that as an agenda item, that would be awesome. I'm currently hosting medical professionals, travel professionals, and using my single home in Stanislaus County, Modesto, as a emergency shelter for a program in Stanislaus County until they find additional housing. So taking away the ability for me to operate does put a strain on the housing needs for people that are coming to the area, traveling, and actual residents in Modesto that need places to stay, whether it is, whether they sold a house, need a place to stay, or, like I said, this emergency program that I work with in Stanislaus County. There was an article in the Modesto Bee written back in March, the 28th, talking about the housing need. It looks like, I'm not sure if he's a council member. I don't want to mistake his title because he's earned that. Mr. Manny Grewal. There was an article written in Modesto Bee talking about the housing, the shortage for short-term rentals, and that there has been a need of, I'm going to quote him, "Oh, we need it. We are losing about 1,300 to 1,400 reservations every month at the current Residence Inn because it's full," Grewal said. So there's obviously a need. We can't expect these people traveling to stay at, the Tiki motel on McHenry. That's substandard for, these nurses that are taking care of patients here in the area. So I just, would like to see if we can have this updated and get with the current times. The revenue off of these would be beneficial to the city, as well as, possibly helping decrease, other issues that we have by more funding for police and whatnot with the revenue that it brings in. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Next is Liz Rivera.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes?
Hi, hello, good evening, members of the council and mayor. Thank you for allowing the public to speak. My name is Liz Rivera. I was born and raised in Modesto. I would like to speak on the short-term rental ordinance, like Jesse and Vanessa have. What's my story? So, although I have moved away and am no longer a resident of Modesto, I consider Modesto home. I have family here. When I return to Modesto, at least once every 2 months, I like to stay in short-term rentals. I like that short-term rentals allow for having your own furnished space, especially with small children. We need our own space for our kids to run around in without the neighboring hotel room complaining. I don't want to stay in a hotel. There are likely others like me who enjoy visiting, spending their money here in Modesto while on vacation, and staying in unique spaces that benefit people who own these short-term rental spaces. It was sometimes tough to find short-term stays for dates that I needed. Thus, I recently bought a home in Modesto, and now my family and I stay there when we return to Modesto to visit family. I'm not some hedge fund taking over Modesto, buying all the properties. I'm a Modesto native that was interested in investing in the town that I once called home and returned to often. I would like to offer it as a short-term rental when I'm not using my home for those needing a safe, comfortable, private space while on their personal or business travels to Modesto. Because it's my personal furniture there, I will take extra caution to screen those who will be going, and I know that there's plenty of nurses, corporate travelers who need housing. With the ban on short-term rentals, I'll be losing possible revenue, as will the city. I am willing to pay the TOT taxes as are other short-term rental operators to benefit the great city of Modesto. Additionally, I also became aware of the possible conflict of interest regarding short-term rental operations and seeing that there are those who are benefiting from the building of hotels and banning short-term stays. So I would like to ask that the City Council and the Mayor add short-term rental regulations onto the agenda so that we can discuss and review the language, update the policy so that it's more accurate to the current times. And like Jesse said, there are other other cities allowing short-term stays, but I don't want, when I travel back and stayed at short-term stays, I don't want to stay in Lodi. I don't want to stay far away. I wanted to stay in Modesto to spend my money here. And I'd be more than willing to have a conversation with Jesse, with Vanessa, with the council to see how we can update this language and allow short-term rental operators to operate in Modesto. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next is Emerson Drake.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I personally would like to thank you especially for allowing our citizen that had the mold issues to speak extra long. She needed the time. But I'd like to talk about the Brown Act, quite honestly. 2 different incidences that have happened in the last month. First of all, everyone on the council and most of the department heads will remember that the city attorney had you sign an affidavit. Apparently, it took that in order to comply with the Brown Act for a question that was asked. All those were put up online. There was only one person that I could tell that did not comply, and that was the city manager. Now, I don't know whether the city attorney reports to the city manager or he reports to you, the council. But I would think that someone might have mentioned to you that he chose not to follow the Brown Act the way the city attorney read it. I can't explain it. I just know that it happened. It's online if you want to see his lack of response. Secondly, there's a new one out there now. It's number 22-131, and that's the number of the public record request. And it's about an ARPA request that the city manager is making, or the city of Modesto, however you want to phrase it, for $4.5 million. And when we inquired, or when I inquired at the meeting when this all went on, he said it was $4.5 million came from overtime from the police, the fire department. Well, after seeing, as we talked to just a couple of weeks ago about Transparent California and the 31 people that made over $300,000 worth of compensation from the city, I thought, well, we must be making millionaires. And this was pre-COVID. So this is COVID time, $4.5 million worth of overtime that we racked up. So I asked simply for the backup. Surely, if you're going to pick a number out of the air, you have justification for it. You can show the hours that were worked pre-COVID, the hours that were worked post-COVID. You could show the amount of money made. The city manager chose not to respond. He kicked it back to the finance department, who gave a non-responsive answer, which I've actually sent the email back, but I haven't heard anything back from the city. Now, there's no reason to be obtuse. These are simple questions. We're going to ask for $4.5 million worth of ARPA money. Surely there's a way to justify it rather than just looking for money to stick into the general fund. And when you allow, I have to wonder, quite honestly, whether that's a contract violation for the city manager by refusing to put forth the affidavit the city attorney said was necessary, and why you didn't know about it as a council. I thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Next, Sebastian Jones.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Sebastian Jones with the Martin Luther King Committee. I just want to say this from the previous lady was here. I just want to let the public know that was a political hit. And we shouldn't use this city council and all to come in here and badger someone's that running for office, Mr. Magical. And I noticed that what she was doing. So I'm asking the public disregard. Thank you.
You're welcome. I do not at this time see any other members of the public wishing to speak in person. All right, and I do not see anyone online. Is that correct? Okay. Will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Yes, Mayor. Item 5, consider approving the minutes from the May 3rd, 2022 council meeting. Item 6, consider final adoption of Ordinance 3745, approving the Modesto Police Department military equipment use policy. Item 7, approving a will serve letter and outside service agreement for sewer service for the property located at 908 Seabold Avenue. Item 8, consider approving the plans and specs for the Pallandale Neighborhood Pavement Maintenance and Virginia Corridor Trail Maintenance Project, accepting the bid, awarding a contract to American Pavement Systems, Inc. of Modesto in the amount of $1,888,619, and amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 CIP budget in the amount of $200,000 for Project 101-247 and $400,000 for Project 101-249. Item 9, approving the proposed airspace and roadway easements within the Tuolumne River Regional Park Gateway necessary to construct the 7th Street Bridge replacement. Item 10, consider approving a cooperative agreement between the City of Modesto and Stanislaus County for the Airport Neighborhood Active Transportation Connectivity and Safety Project, and improving enhanced infrastructure and associated costs for the project development within the city's jurisdiction. Item 11, consider approving an agreement with West Yoast Associates from Sacramento for engineering services for the Jennings Well Treatment Improvements Project in the amount of $219,300 for the identified scope of services plus $21,930 in additional services if needed, for a total amount not to exceed $241,230, and amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 CIP budget in the amount of $245,000. Item 12, consider accepting an agreement with Brown & Caldwell, Inc. from Rancho Cordova for construction support services for Grayson Well 69 in the amount of $160,348 for the identified scope of services plus $16,035 in additional services if needed, for a total amount not to exceed $176,383.
Move to approve all consent items.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky. Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. The motion carries 6-0. All right. Does the city manager have any comments and reports?
Just real briefly, Mayor, we heard some comments today about the short-term rental. We do have staff reviewing our current ordinance, and we are looking into possible changes to that ordinance. So our review continues, and I expect to see something in the near future, but it's going to still take probably at least a couple months. That's it for me.
Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful. Any council comments and reports? Councilmember Canoyer.
Yes, I want to, well, thank everybody for their comments and their well wishes for my health. It's going to get better. It is getting better. And the wind needs to stop. I want to say that I was very fortunate to attend and be part of the Cinco de Mayo parade on Saturday. It was incredible to see the number of people that were out there. I guess people are so anxious since this, we haven't had a parade for a long time. And it was very, very enjoyable. And I was just really happy to be part of it, along with the mayor and with Councilmember Madrigal. So anyhow, looking forward to our next parade.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, Friday, I was able to be at Orville Wright, no relation, school, for the walk, skip, jump, scooter to school day. And there was probably 100 children with their families walking to school, and it was a great time. And afterwards, we had a great committee meeting with all the parents. And there are some issues out in the airport district that hopefully that between the city and the county we can look at and really help the residents of that area. But it was a great time to see the families come together and see all the kids walking to school, and it was a neat time.
Thank you. Councilmember Rickey.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first things that I was working on when I got elected was the short-term rental, rules that we have in Modesto, and there's a lot of reasons we have the rules that we have right now. So it'll be interesting to see what staff comes up with, because we do have a housing shortage right now, but we've also approved a lot of new housing units. So we have to balance all the different needs of the community, including things like, traveling nurses was mentioned too. So I do think it's something we should continue to look at, and that TOT income is something the city could potentially use. So it's an interesting issue, and I think it's something we should continue to work on. And in other news, other stuff I want to talk about today, I'm very proud of Modesto right now. Auto thefts are down 28% this year. Residential burglaries are down 29%. Now, you won't see those numbers, on the front page, or, you won't see them really on the internet because, those things don't get really reactions or clicks. But it's very important that we talk about it and that we talk about the improvements we're making as a city and how we're doing better. This is a really special community, and it continues to improve. Like it or not, we're getting better, And a lot of it is MPD's ability to deploy new strategies, working with neighbors, finding new ways to communicate quickly to stop things like porch pirates and stuff like that. They've got some really great strategies they're working on. But regardless, the numbers just keep improving. And I think that one of our responsibilities in government is to be, honest and transparent about what's going on in our community. And when you look at good things, we talk about bad things all the time. But we need to also talk about the things that we're doing well. And this is an area that we're really succeeding in. Another area that I want to talk about tonight is homelessness. We know that homelessness is probably the biggest issue that we're tackling right now as a city. I was really hoping to get safe parking passed faster than we have. We started talking about it last year, and we still haven't been able to get it done yet. But I'm hopeful that we can close that up soon. But I think we also need to start talking about safe camping as another possible solution. And I know we have a lot of experience with it, but our community is really demanding action from us on this issue. And I don't want to be someone that represents them that didn't try to create solutions. And that's what we can do here. Safe camping is a solution that we could deploy immediately, that we have funding avenues that we could take advantage of, and something that we could do to make Modesto a safer, more comfortable place for our residents. So I just hope that we can work with our partners in the county and our partners here at the city to try to get something going on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. Indeed, collaborating with our local government partners, both at the city level and county level, is critical to build a dynamic community and commerce here in Modesto. Another way is to collaborate and advocate with those state representatives. And today, I and Councilmember Ricky and Mayor had that opportunity to talk with Senator Eggman's staff. That conversation allowed us an opportunity to talk about critical issues that impact Modesto and our region. And we had that opportunity to do that. So they heard us loud and clear, the level of support that we would like from them and the partnership that we are willing to extend to them as well. And I personally applaud Senator Eggman's efforts in advocacy specifically for the city of Modesto, where she was able to secure $5 million in the state budget for the city of Modesto, and particularly for infrastructure development. And this is definitely going to help the disadvantaged communities, in particular those in the island areas. So again, collaboration and advocacy and partnership with our state partners is critical, and I was glad to be part of that today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Madrigal.
Just wanted to piggyback on Councilmember Ricky's comments about trying to find some of these homeless solutions with specific creative ideas like the safe parking spaces. Wanted to just express my support and hope that we can bring this to a full discussion at a policy level and then a council discussion and action in the near future. Just also wanted to share some events that I attended last week. I attended the May the 4th Be With You event, which was put on by local volunteers such as Chris Murphy and a whole lot of other really dedicated community leaders who are always trying to bring a fun, vibrant experience to downtown. Also participated in the National Day of Prayer last Thursday. I believe the mayor was there, and were you there, Councilmember Wright? Can't remember. Okay, thought I saw you. Never mind. Yeah, never mind. So, in addition to that, I attended an open house for a new business in downtown Modesto. It's called the Dolce Event Center. It's over here on J Street above the existing My Mimosas restaurant, and it's a partnership with the existing building owner and the business owner trying to invest in creating an event space for downtown. I just always find it exciting when new businesses want to continue to open in Modesto, especially in the downtown core. Also attended the Cinco de Mayo parade last week. It was last weekend. Was a fun event. A lot of people were excited to be back out. Thank you to all the volunteers for all their help, and I thank the city and my colleagues for, again, having another year of being a co-sponsor of the event by helping this, by waiving a lot of the city fees for this community event in particular. I understand our city manager was there as one of the judges of the floats. I hope you had a good time and really got to take in everything Cinco de Mayo about South Modesto. Nothing like being there, you know. Also another event I attended was a Victory Outreach Church Barbecue in Cesar Chavez Park. It's one of those events where, you know, I've gotten invited from time to time. I finally was able to make a time to go. It was a rewarding experience to be there with these community folks who were in fellowship, literally barbecuing and offering free food, a plate to eat, to anybody walking by that might need a bite. And so that was a fun event. And just looking through here real quick, making sure I didn't miss one. I think that was it.
All right, thank you.
Oh, before I forget, today is Mother's Day in Mexico. I think Mother's Day should be every day, but today, I want to say in español to all the moms, a todas las mamás, todas las madres, feliz Día de las Madres, este día muy especial. Las queremos mucho. Tan tan.
Thank you. Without being redundant of all the activities that were so wonderful in our community that we participated in events and legislative meetings, I wanted to mention one. I was invited to speak last Friday morning at the Business Women's Symposium, and it was a large crowd of amazing women in our community that are entrepreneurs and very excited about the future and business here. And then the unique experience that we were invited to, and I was able to attend the symphony on Friday night, and they are in the process of choosing a new conductor, and so one of the finalists was there conducting for us to listen to and for me to hear. And it was pretty remarkable what he had to say about this community, that he spent a week here, and he said he was blown away by the hospitality, by the beautiful weather, commented over and over and over about the beautiful weather that we have here, and I don't know who they will choose, but he was pretty great and pretty excited about our community. And they said that they have had 180 applicants to come to Modesto for that job. So I think that speaks really well. The symphony is a world-class organization. The music was so beautiful. So I really encourage you, if you have an evening that you would just like to enjoy, it was just a really great experience. So that's it. For our reports, Councilmember Madrigal, I see your name there. Is that all right? There we go.
Yeah, that was old.
Okay, all right. Next, we will go on to unfinished business. Item 13, this is a resolution declaring the City Council's decision to fill the recent City Council vacancy by election during the November 2022 general municipal election, when the voters of District 4 elect a candidate to a new 4-year term starting in 2022 and ending in 2026 pursuant to City of Modesto Charter Section 702. And I will turn this presentation over to our City Attorney, Jose Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of the council, and the mayor just read the title of the resolution. This item is actually an item that the council took on a special meeting on April 26th, and we're following up from that meeting. As the council knows, there is a vacancy on the council. That's a result of a resignation by former council member Bill Zalaki. Former council member Bill Zalaki did submit a letter of resignation on April 20th of this year, with his resignation being effective that same day at 12 p.m. His term was set to end this year on the council. The city does have a charter section that deals with how vacancies are filled, and that is Charter Section 702. The charter basically states that the council has 30 days to make an appointment. It does say the council shall appoint, but if the council does not appoint somebody within 30 days of the vacancy, then the council needs to call an election in order to fill the vacancy. Whereas we discussed last time, where it starts getting a little complicated is just with the dates. It's not a lot of time from now till the election in November. When you look at the process, the council, as far as filling vacancies, the council did speak first in the special meeting on April 26th. We discussed appointment. What does it take to appoint? Are there any rules? There's no guidance in the charter or in state law regarding how appointments are made. Some jurisdictions go out, they interview, they receive applications, go through interviews and selecting somebody to fill a vacancy. And that was definitely an option for the council. That's an option. But the council on April 26th, by a vote of 3-2, did direct us to come back with the item, the resolution, but basically directed us to have the voters select who fills the vacancy. Given the timing for calling an election, because we're so close to the November election, the law has specific requirements of how you call an election. The law states that after you call for an election, you can't hold the election within 114 days, which means you have to wait 114 days from calling it, and then you look at the law to see what's the next regularly scheduled election that you can place the election to fill the vacancy on. In this case, it's the November election. So really, the decision of having the voters fill the vacancy, really it's letting the voters simply fill the vacancy by selecting the next person, by selecting the person with a new term, as already was scheduled. The council did discuss the two options, and we did get direction to come back with formalizing that decision. And again, that was a 3-2 vote. The resolution before you does just formalize that decision. Now, we'll mention, I know we discussed it a little at the special meeting, resolutions do take 4 votes to pass. However, in a situation like this, even if we had a 3-3 vote, that doesn't pass the resolution, but that still doesn't make an appointment or gives direction to actually go out and do the process of appointments. So the default pursuant to the charter section is still calling an election. The city will be calling an election for the November, or I'm sorry, we'll be calling an election. We'll be bringing forward a resolution calling the election for November 2022 as already planned. So that is going to happen. That is happening anyway. And Mayor, happy to answer any questions. I know I kind of went through the details and the law quick since I know we discussed it on April 26th. It is outlined in the staff report. And just for ease and kind of visualization, there is a sample timeline in the staff report just to kind of state, April 20th, we had the resignation. We have 30 days to fill. The council has 30 days to appoint. That would be May 20th. If the council decided to call an election instead, you're really looking at 114 days to wait. Let's say the council called it on May 20th. That would be looking at around September 11th. And then when we look at the elections code at the next regularly established election date, that's your November 8th election. And again, this seat is set to expire after the new person's elected in November 2022 anyway. So that's already set to happen. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from council?
I do have a question, Mayor. Jose, does the fact that previous council member Zlowski had exceeded his 2 terms and was in that additional year that gave him the 9th year, does that time frame impact the policies that you just recited?
And that's a good question because it's a little, it's where that's a little different, right, than the normal 4 years. But no, the charter does not go into kind of that situation. We really look into how much time they have left on their term. But I do know in this case, this term was extended for 1 year, so this was really kind of the 5th year of the term. There's nothing in the charter that addresses that. All it looks at is whether the council member is resigning or creating a vacancy prior to the term ending. And in this case, it would be this November.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from council members? Seeing none, any comments from the public regarding item 13? I do not see anyone online. All right. Sebastian, welcome.
Sebastian Jones. So to feel his seat, are you guys going to appoint someone? Or are you going to?
The recommendation in the resolution declares that it would go to the next election. So we still haven't voted on it. We still have to vote on it. We just need public comment.
Well, you're going to be short when you got 6 votes. Who's going to break the tie? I mean, if 3 voted on something, who would be the person that's going to break that? You know, it's always been voted 3 or something like that when you vote on something. So,
Well, it was described that if it's 3-3, then it doesn't, the resolution doesn't pass, but it will, by default, for lack of a better word, go to the election. Which is the case with every item that we vote on, if there's a tie.
okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? All right, comments from council members. Councilmember Ricky.
So, again, I'm very concerned that we're not appointing someone for this position, or that we're considering not appointing someone for this position. We're leaving one of our districts unrepresented for 6 months. I don't see any upside in that. I don't think that the residents of District 4 intended to not have a representative for that long. And it also, it weakens the council a little bit in the sense that we're missing a voice and we're missing a perspective. Although we haven't officially done any sort of search for someone to appoint or ask people to apply, the people that spoke publicly, people like Mike Meridian, who created the Loma Neighborhood Association, really was the catalyst for Modesto Neighborhoods, Inc., said he would do it. We got Nick Bavaro, someone else, who talked about doing it, a very qualified person. We have good qualified people that could help us, that we could appoint. And it makes no difference to me who it is, but what matters to me is it's someone that can help District 4, and I'm disappointed that we're strongly considering this. Thanks.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Just want to follow up those comments and say I agree. As I mentioned last time, we should put in the extra work, for lack of a better word. I'm not saying nobody wants to put in extra work. I'm saying we should go through the process of filling this vacancy so that the people of District 4 have a council member that represents them, and that, of course, in addition to all the other support that all of us council members show to each other's districts, including District 4. As I mentioned before, there was times when I had residents from City Council District 4 that reached out to me, either because they spoke Spanish and I spoke Spanish, or they knew me from some community event, and I still helped, and I still filled in Councilmember Zalaki. Hey, I had somebody from your district ask me about a stop sign, I think, for example. And he said, thank you, I appreciate it. Please continue to help them, especially if you speak Spanish, for example. I understand we all work as a team. I don't see any downside to us appointing one more member of this seven council member team, if you will, to fill that vacancy for the short remaining amount of months, especially if we've even had folks that step forward and helped us take the politics out of it, if you will, by openly declaring that they're not going to run again. So, I mean, if the motion is going to be to approve this resolution to just continue on until the November election, I'm still going to vote no. Quick question for the city attorney. Do you happen to know, apologies if you said it was in a timeline, how many days do we have if we wanted to make an appointment? Because wasn't it like a 30-day window or something like that?
That is correct, 30 days from the date of the resignation.
Yeah, I forgot. What date were we, when did the clock start?
April 20th, so we're looking at May 20th.
About 10 days? I mean, I don't think it's impossible. I still think it's doable. You know, would have been in a better position if we would have voted last time to go with opening an appointment process. And so just a follow-up question. So in this meeting, could a majority of council members vote to direct staff to vote, or do we have to say we're voting to reject the resolution and direct staff to proceed with an application process? Like, would we have to say it that way? That way it's more directly tied into what's agendized? I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but I think you get my point.
No, well, Councilmember, the item is filling the vacancy. Now, there's a resolution that came back, given the council direction from last time, but any motions that are tied to the item of vacancy, obviously the council would consider, and we would make a motion second. So if the motion was moving to not adopt the resolution and moving forward with an appointment process, if a majority of the council went that direction, of course, staff would take that direction and assist.
Just a follow-up question. What happens if for some reason that were to happen, but, you know, the appointment process, I don't know, we ended up going over by a day or two or something? I'm just, for the sake of argument.
Your charter is very clear that it's within 30 days. So as far as the process goes, I think obviously you would need to call special meetings. I'm assuming depends on the process the council would like to take. As mentioned in the staff report, there's no guidance as far as this is, or regulations saying this is how you appoint. So that's a flexible. So if a majority of the council wanted to appoint and decided to appoint, you can decide to do interview process. You could decide to appoint someone that's already kind of said they were interested. There are several options, and we would of course have to work within the council's direction to make sure that the appointment happened within the 30 days.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
All right, Councilmember Canoyer.
Yes, I really appreciate the comments and understand kind of the other two council members' concern about District 4 not being represented. And then I found it really interesting that following that up, Councilmember Madrigal said that he had to reach out to District 4 to help out. So that kind of, I don't know, two-edged sword, you know, you're saying they're not being represented, but then you had to reach out to help them. So I just feel that looking back on how long it took me to be able to serve the city of Modesto and its residents, well, it took more than 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. And so I still say that District 4 is not unrepresented. We have a mayor that represents the whole city, and she votes. It takes more than one vote to pass anything. It takes 4 or 3 to kill it. So anyway, I'm just saying that I do understand the why they feel the way they do, but really, no district is left unrepresented, and I'm going to back this motion.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Madrigal, I saw your name again.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify from my colleague, specifically, a constituent from District 4 reached out to me and asked me for help. And then I contacted Councilmember Zalaki to let him know, hey, somebody from your district asked me for help. And then Councilmember Zalaki said, please continue to do so, especially since you speak Spanish. That was the sequence of the order of what happened. Just wanted to let you know.
May I respond?
Sure.
I understand that. And I understand somebody reached out to you, but the fact that that person felt that any of us, especially you, could speak Spanish, and they probably would have done the same for it had they had especially Reagan had been on the council longer, they might have known that. And if it would have been at that time, they probably would have gone to her. And so I'm saying that
She's just applauding you for representing District 4 really well and in Spanish.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony.
I appreciate you applauding me.
yeah,
Thank you so
and
much.
that's what I'm saying. So, but I still say that it shows that that no district goes unrepresented, because I do not speak Spanish. I do not speak Hindu. I do not speak a lot of those languages. So I really I would have to reach out to, someone to help me. They don't go unrepresented. It makes me feel sad that anybody would think that we would ignore anybody in the city of Modesto. We don't. Just because we're elected to one district, it doesn't mean that the other districts are ignored. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Elections are very important, and I think it's important that we realize that even if we had a year and a half before the next election, I think it's important that we let the citizens of the District 4 choose who they would want to be representing. I've had several conversations with citizens from the district that would like to wait till November because they would like to make a clear choice without having due pressure because we appoint someone. We put a mantle on them that, hey, this is a person we recommend, which is sometimes gives an undue favor to someone when you trying to have a fair election. So knowing that we're only 6 months away, we have maybe 9 more council meetings before the November election, I feel very strongly that we need to let the citizens, which a lot of them in the district would like to have the clear choice of voting for who they want to vote to put on this council. And again, just like Councilmember Magico says, well, I'm in the district, that district more so than I am in my district. The only problem I have in my district is mosquitoes. So, that's something out of my control, but I do get calls for trees. I was in Overwright School Friday, talking to the airport area, which is in District 4, and, tree issues and, other issues, skating rain down on the Dry Creek Trail. I get phone calls all the time from that district and emails. So I think all of us reach out to everyone in all districts because I feel like I'm representing not only my district, but I represent the people of Modesto. I want to do what's best for the people of Modesto. And that's why I think it's important that we let the people of Modesto decide who their council members should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Scudia Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. If I felt that for any reason, any sector of our community would be harmed by keeping a council seat vacant, I would vote to fill it in a heartbeat. I don't believe that that's the case here today. And that's why I support maintaining the seat vacant until such time as the constituents of District 4 go to the ballot and select their representative.
All right, thank you. I'll just briefly make a comment. Ideally, 7 people on the council is best. No doubt about that. In this situation, and I'm not going to include this in any part of this, but I do think that it's something that should be mentioned. As I mentioned before, being on the school board twice and going through the appointment process, the 30-day time limit is really rough. That really does prohibit the outreach that's needed to make sure that as many people as possible know that the spot is even available. And in this case, with the political season in full force, with the short time frame, I think that it's necessary to take this to the voters to the November election. So that's, I'll just leave that. So I support this resolution at this point. So are there any other?
I'll make a motion to, we already have, I'll make a motion to accept, to pass the resolution.
I second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Resolution declaring the city council's two. Councilmember Madrigal?
Just wanted to point out, I'm not sure if I said this last time, but I'll say it again. Perhaps staff, when they put together that final, we haven't voted on the final charter amendments cleanup language, have we?
No.
So just, I hope staff hears this, need for cleanup language in the charter. I know we're not discussing that now, but for maybe bringing this back, a provision about filling council vacancies with the package of charter cleanup language that we want to send to the ballot for this coming November is something that we should be also get added to the list of cleanup language amendments. Hint, hint. I guess
Thank you.
Not so subtle, but you get my point.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal?
No.
Councilmember Ricky?
No.
Councilmember Canoyer?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright?
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton?
Aye.
And Mayor Zwellen?
Hi, aye. Excuse me. Carries 4-2. All right. Excuse me, Jessica, but I'm going to ask that we take a 5-minute break. Thank you for being so ready, but 5-minute break, please.
on now.
Mayor, do you know what tantan means when they said that at the end?
They're unmuted.
Okay. All right, on to item 14. Consider accepting the City of Modesto's Project Homekey 2.0 grant award. It went off. Okay, there we go. Grant award of $1,724,157 for the project located at 112 James Street, approving a loan in an amount up to $200,000 in permanent local housing allocation funds for Stanislaus Equity Partners to assist with the acquisition, $50,000 for staff activity, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the agreements, and amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 multi-year fund budget to establish a project for the Homekey 2.0 program to be funded with HCD Homekey 2.0 grant funds and PLHA grant funds. And we have Jessica Hill for this report.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Jessica Hill, Community Development Manager. So I'm going to start with a little background about Project Homekey. It was launched in July 2020 with $750 million to quickly house homeless individuals in permanent housing opportunities. With that $750 million, they were able to complete 94 projects statewide and create 6,000 new units of housing. So with the success of this program, $1.4 billion was allocated in Project Homekey 2.0. Applications were available in late September 2021, and applications were accepted on a rolling basis until funds were exhausted. So as a little bit of background about eligibility for Homekey projects, funding must be applied for by a government agency. It has to serve those who are homeless or at risk of homelessness and under 30% of the area median income for a household of one that's under $15,000. The grant would award $150,000 per door, have to have supportive services for the length of the project, and the project has to remain affordable for 55 years. So for this specific project, Stanislaus Equity Partners approached the City of Modesto for a partnership and co-application for a project at 112 James. They were looking to partner with Cinco as a second applicant with their history and experience, and also to be the project manager of the property. Cinco has extensive experience as an affordable housing developer and also property manager throughout Stanislaus County. Most recently, they are the property manager for Kansas House. The project would also assist behavioral health and recovery services clients, and BHRS would provide ongoing supportive services for the clients through the length of the project. To date, right now, behavioral health and recovery services has about 300 individuals who are ready for this permanent housing. So the 112 James Street project will consist of 7 units, 1 one-bedroom, 4 two-bedroom, and 2 three-bedroom units, and assist up to 15 to 20 residents. The project is near a bus stop, grocery store, pharmacy, and the library, as well as BHRS housing is within 0.8 miles, and their main facility is 2.5 miles away. So the city was notified on April 26, 2022 of an award from HCD totaling just over $1.7 million, which includes acquisition and then reserves and other project costs. So our timeline, as you see, we have the Project Homekey award letter, and we're anticipating full occupancy by June 30th, 2022. I wanted to give council an update on the Project Homekey 2.0 awards as well. So to date, 61 projects in 38 jurisdictions totaling $970 million have been awarded. Modesto is part of the San Joaquin Valley region, including 8 other counties: Fresno, Kern, Kings, Madera, Merced, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Tulare. And of this region, 8 projects were awarded totaling $94 million. And Stanislaus County if accepted tonight, would have 2 projects awarded, both in the city of Modesto, totaling just over $5.6 million for a total of 21 new units. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Questions from council members? I still see 2 names up there, but I'm not sure if they're left over. All right. Any questions from council members? Seeing none, any comments from the public regarding this item 15? Seeing none, comments from council members? All right. This is...
I do have one quick comment.
Sure.
I just want to thank Jessica, you and your staff for going after these grants. That's really great. You know, we hear about affordable housing all the time for low income, and this is something that we need to do about 20 more of these this year. So keep after the money.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I misstated. I said item 15. It's item 14. So this is a resolution accepting the City of Modesto's Project Homekey 2.0 grant award for $1,724,157 for the project located at 112 James Street, authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the related agreements. Resolution rescinding Resolution 2022-077 and approves a loan to Stanislaus Equity Partners in an amount up to $200,000 in permanent local housing allocation funds to assist with the rehabilitation of 112 James Street, $50,000 for staff activity delivery costs, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the agreements. Resolution rescinding Resolution 2022-078 and 2022-079 and amending the fiscal year 2021-2022 multi-year fund budget to establish a new project for the Homekey 2.0 program to be funded with Homekey 2.0 grant funds and PLHA grant funds, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to take the necessary steps to implement the provisions of this resolution. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
All
You
right.
can have it.
All right. Motion approved by Councilmember Madrigal. Do I have a second? Councilmember Escutia Brayton, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton. Aye. And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. So it carries 6-0. Thank you very much for your report, Jessica. All right. Next is new business. Item 15. Consider approving the creation of a pilot program to allow the use of a shared mobility service of stand-up electric scooters in the City of Modesto and issuing a shared mobility permit to Bird Rides Incorporated with such terms and conditions defined by the operating agreement and as determined necessary by the city manager. And we will have the staff report by Jalen French. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Jalen French, Director of Community and Economic Development. As was read, the item before you tonight is consideration of a pilot program for a scooter share program in the City of Modesto. So you are likely familiar with scooters, but for background, shared mobility scooters are electrically motorized personal transportation devices made available to the public by a service provider for a fee. So this conversation began in 2019 with various scooter vendors interested in opening or starting a program in the City of Modesto. At that time, the Economic Development Committee directed staff to develop a program. Subsequently, with COVID, sort of a shift in the scooter industry and other factors, staff had other priorities, council had other priorities, and the scooter program was put on the back burner just a bit. So I mentioned some of the issues that the scooter industry has gone through or they have experienced. They really reacted to when the program was new and some of the issues that they experienced there with blight, safety, and other issues. So California enacted AB 1286, which encouraged cities or required cities wanting to start a share program to create an operating agreement. And the intent of the operating agreement was to address minimum levels of insurance, liability, fleet management, and other things. So during those conversations, both in 2019 and later in 2021, the four main concerns that were expressed were regarding blight, safety, liability, and enforcement. And so really to address and mitigate to the best of our ability those concerns, staff came up with a 12-month pilot operating program to establish rules, performance standards, to regulate the operation of the program, to ensure it addressed all those issues and did not create an undue nuisance for the community. Staff further researched and identified a third-party software program that could help potentially provide a little finer detail into the use of the program once operational, and would help us kind of measure against the information that the vendor was providing. So again, all these things to address the issues that we had heard through the conversations in 2019 and 2021. So after the sort of pause, after COVID was largely through, Bird approached the city. Bird is a vendor, scooter vendor. Bird approached the city again, interested in starting a program here, and this was run through the Economic Development Committee again in 2021, but a little on Bird. So Bird is a micro-mobility company with a focus on shared electric vehicles. They not only have scooters, but they also have bikes in their fleet. Riders use a smartphone app to find an available scooter, unlock it, complete the safety tutorial, and then they can start their ride. Bird will work with local entrepreneurs from the community to manage the fleet, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And that individual would receive money from the revenue generated by each ride. Bird does provide 24-hour, 7-day-a-week customer service, and they currently operate in over 400 cities worldwide, including a few nearby: Tracy, Hollister, Redding, and Sacramento. So if approved, the program would generally operate in the area expressed on the map here. Pellendale to the north, Oakdale on the east, generally 132 with a section kind of down to Chicago in the south, and then Dale Road on the west. It is thought right now that the scooters would generally be located in the downtown and along the MJC campuses, but ultimately, again, if approved, Bird would use demand data to distribute the scooters throughout this geographic area. So we wanted to highlight some of the key elements in the operating agreement, again, in our effort to address some of the concerns that we've seen. So the term is a 12-month with an option to extend 12-month by mutual consent. The initial fleet would be 100 scooters with the ability to increase by 50 scooters per month if there are certain metrics met, including 1.5 rides per scooter per day, and then, of course, city approval. Bird would provide one fleet manager for every 200 scooters in service. This is down, I guess, or up, depending on how you look at it, from one fleet manager per 500 scooters. The fleet managers would collect, organize, park, repair, whatever it may be, the scooters at least every 2 days. Again, Bird provides 24-hour, 7-day-a-week customer service. Then there's several in here about parking. So the fleet manager, to ensure that the vehicles, the scooters, are parked neatly on sidewalks where there is adequate width on the sidewalk to park scooters. If there is not adequate width on the sidewalk, then those scooters would be parked in the street. What we would do, if approved, is work with their fleet manager and operations manager, the city and some of our partners, Downtown Modesto Partnership and others, to really nail down exactly where those vehicles can be parked, the scooters. Fleet manager shall ensure that vehicles do not impede sidewalk activity in any way. And then users are required to take a photo of where they park it, and fines can be assessed if users are parking those in the wrong location. The city does have sort of out clauses, a termination clause, if, in our opinion and through the city manager's determination, the scooter program is consistently violating the terms of the agreement, both in terms of parking and general operations. There is a fee associated with this program. The city would receive 10 cents per ride for every ride. We estimate that that would generate approximately $10,000 in revenue. Now, if we went with the third-party software, which would be about $4,500 a year, some of that revenue would go towards that program. Now, there will be some staff oversight and overall management of the program. At this point, we don't predict that the $10,000 generated would cover the third-party software and staff time total. Maybe not even staff time, but again, we would have to see what the overall workload is for cities, really across departments. So it would be Community and Economic Development, Public Works, and the Police Department, who would be primarily responsible for oversight of the program, in addition to the fleet manager. So other information that we wanted to share within the geographic boundary represented on the map, scooters are only allowed where vehicles are allowed. So they are not allowed in sidewalks, parks, or trails. So you think Virginia Corridor, Dry Creek Trail. Again, I mentioned Bird will utilize demand data to place scooters within that geographic location, but probably start in the downtown and along MJC. Through the Bird program, we do have the opportunity to what's called geofence certain areas where the scooters are either not allowed or they should be slowed down. So we do have that ability through the Bird program. The general cost is $1 to unlock a scooter, and according to Bird, the average cost per ride is about $7. The agreement specifically spells out indemnification and insurance. The city is indemnified for the company's negligence or willful misconduct, not for any incident that may occur on public facilities. And the company, per the agreement, would carry liability insurance, general liability, $2 million per incident, $5 million aggregate, as well as umbrella insurance coverage. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions that the council or the public may have at this time.
All right, thank you for this presentation. Questions from council members? Councilmember Canoyer.
Yes, I have a question on the insurance. Now, what does that mean when it comes to if an injury happens? And it is not because anything was wrong with the scooter. Say somebody wasn't supposed to be on, but we're going to see on the sidewalk, they hit an elderly lady like me, knocked me down. Who's responsible when I sue for my injuries? Is it Bird or is it the City of Modesto?
May I go ahead and take that? The reality is if somebody gets hit by a user, I mean, the user of the scooter would be most likely responsible for the injuries. The issue I think you're talking about is obviously when a lawsuit happens, folks name as many people as possible, right? So you would have Bird named. The city would say, okay, we have an indemnification section. We want to be indemnified. The language currently does have that the provision that that Mr. French pointed out, which it only has it arising out of the company's negligence or willful misconduct. So if the company's saying, no, this was not out of our negligence or willful misconduct, we may have obviously an indemnification issue because they would be arguing that the city's not covered. There's also a section in the indemnification section that says companies shall be released from its indemnification obligation under this section to the extent loss or damage was caused by the city's negligent construction or maintenance of public infrastructure. And I think that that's what, again, Mr. French mentioned regarding the city's infrastructure. So the indemnification, there are those carve-outs. Usually we like anything resulting from anything related to Bird. This indemnification obviously has those very specific carve-outs. I know I went a little deeper into the analysis, but I think that that's what you were asking. As far as liability, if somebody gets hit, I would argue the city's not liable. If somebody gets hit, because the user would be responsible, and the city had no part in that.
So does that mean infrastructure, because of a pothole in the street, and the scooter hits the pothole, and they go off and get hurt? That has nothing to do with the scooter, but it does have to do with like trip and falls on sidewalks for citizens.
Very similar to what we get now, right? As a city, where if something happens, now there's a lot of governmental immunities that we would claim, of course, as a city, but usually you could see that a lot as the city's name for things like that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Wright.
Thank you. Jalen, one of my questions is there any way to monitor whether or not the scooter's going the wrong way on a street?
Not likely through the app. I don't think it would give that fine level of detail, or through the data that Bird provides. That would be likely with PD or through the fleet manager. We could address if it happened on multiple incidents, not probably in one incident.
So they have no way to take data to see if the scooters are being misused on where they're riding, correct?
We do have the ability to compile data on misuse of scooters. Now, if it's going the wrong way on a street, for instance, I don't know if we'd have that fine level of detail. But overall, if approved, what we would do is have continual and frequent conversations with the fleet manager and operations manager through Bird. And if we were seeing issues, we could report those to the fleet manager and operation manager to address those issues to the best of our ability.
I do have some concerns. Being an insurance broker, insurance is something I deal with every day. And I know that in this county, this Modesto B had a great article, or not a great article, but had an article Sunday on we're number one for accidents, fatalities, pedestrian fatalities, bicycle fatalities in the region. And as an insurance broker, I see that in our rates. Our rates are higher here than they are in the safe city of San Jose. Because of the accidents that we have. So one of my concerns is actually for the riders. I saw a video tonight of a person driving down Sis with a scooter in front of them going in and out of the different lanes on Sis Road, which is a 35, 40 mile an hour roadway. So as a insurance person, I do have a lot of concerns on what that's going to do with our citizens, hitting somebody that's on a scooter that's maybe misusing the scooter, or somebody's backing out of an angle area like we have downtown. I back out all the time, and I just cross my fingers that there's nobody, that I can't see coming, down the road on a bike, especially on a bike, because sometimes you can't see them on a bike. So that would be one of my concerns. And I know in the state of Florida, we just learned last week that 4 of the major insurance companies in the state of Florida are pulling out of Florida because of losses. And the reason why they're pulling out, losses, yes, is because they can't get any rate increase to help cover for the losses. Same thing's going on here in the state of California. Insurance companies are not getting any rate increase to deal with all the losses that are going on. So they are starting to slow down insuring new households, and also there are companies looking at pulling out of the state of California because of the losses are so bad. So that really concerns me. We're putting another avenue of vehicles, unlicensed vehicles on the roadway that are not really designed for bikes. We do have some areas in Modesto have bike lanes, which are really great, but nothing downtown. It's just not an area that really lends itself to having, more scooters or whatever, bikes downtown. I know Friday night, when was Star Wars? When was the Star Wars thing? Was that for Saturday night?
It's May 4th.
May 4th, yeah. May 4th, Star Wars. I was down here. It was great, a lot of people and everything. We went to dinner on J Street, and I'm sitting there, and 2 young men came down on skateboards in the middle of J Street, probably going 35 miles an hour. They're really going. So, that really hit home to me that if somebody like Jenny or my parents were backing out of a space and that gentleman was coming down on his skateboard, I would hate to see that happen.
Any other questions from council members? Okay. You go ahead. I had a question, but go ahead.
Could you speak to what you heard from the other cities that you researched? You mentioned Tracy, Hollister, Sacramento. I forgot the other one.
Please talk where we can hear you.
Could you please mention or share what you heard from the other cities that you researched that have the scooters already? I think you mentioned Livermore, Tracy, Sacramento. I forgot the other one.
Yeah, absolutely. We did reach out specifically to Tracy, Redding, and Hollister. In general, mixed. Mostly positive, but I would say mixed. So specifically, City of Tracy, they had a really good fleet manager, and the program was going well. There was a shift to a more regional-based fleet manager, and then it did not go as well. They did mention that enforcement of the use of scooters was an issue. They did mention that younger adults and kids were using them, some of the kids for joyrides. Overall, they haven't had a huge problem, is what the City of Tracy said, but those are the things that they are seeing. City of Redding, similar, have not had a lot of safety issues. Generally speaking, they said they like them. Young people like them a lot. They're seeing less issues, although they did say that some of the scooters are kind of littering the sidewalk when they're not picked up quickly enough. And then the City of Hollister, again, kind of a theme. Kids are riding them. Kids are doing tricks. People coming out of bars late at night, and there was kind of a DUI question. They had some issues around some public facilities, but they geofenced that and fixed that. Again, said generally positive, and the community seems to like it. Those are the issues that they're experiencing, though.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have a question. How far do they go before the power runs out? Do you know?
I don't know,
approximately?
but they do go quite a way. I mean, it's definitely more than any trip.
Okay, I think I had that question answered probably a long time ago, but, so further than the boundary
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what, okay,
Further than most, certainly further than most average trip.
okay. So in the comments that you just made about a lot of kids, you said, or young people, but the age limit, they're required to be 18, correct? And have a driver's license.
Correct.
So how is that enforced?
Yeah, so that's enforced through the app. The user will sign the user agreement and verify their age. Other enforcement.
So
is
adults
difficult.
could verify their age and then a minor child could be on the scooter, right? There's
Correct.
no way really to enforce that. And then helmets are required?
Not required, encouraged.
So
If you're over 18, which you're supposed to be to use it, there's no helmet law for over 18.
Helmet laws just for under 18.
Yeah, just for minors.
Okay, that's not the case for motorcycles, but it is for
bikes.
scooters? And bicycles, I believe that's the law, correct? Under 18?
Correct.
Helmets are required over 18, okay.
And I did find the range, Mayor, it's 35 miles.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, thank you for answering those questions. That helps, appreciate it. Any other questions from council members? Council, pardon me? Okay, Councilmember Madrigal, do you have any more questions?
No, not now. I was hoping to maybe hear from the public and the applicant.
Okay, Councilmember Canoyer, questions? Okay, all right. So at this time, I don't see any other questions from council members. So we will go to the public. Sebastian Jones?
Well, once again, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I am excited. I was reading the Modesto Bee this morning, and I've seen this. And the reason I'm excited is, years ago, I think it was in 2018, I was in the city of Long Beach on a campaign thing, and I took the scooter from a hotel. I think I was about 7 blocks. And I took my card and I put it in there, whatever had happened. And I rode on down to the convention. I thought it was pretty cool. And I was thinking, I said, dang, I sure would like to bring this to Modesto. I did look into it, but I thought about it, that was in 2018. They probably won't go for it. But I thought it was a good, especially here, you got kids riding bicycles and scooters and skateboard. I don't know about the skateboard. He tell me I'm going 35 miles an hour. Well, I need to get me one of them because I can ride that around town. You know, Councilman, I think that we need to move on this. It's very, when you put your card in there, it has all your information. Now, you can't go buy one of those store-bought credit card. It won't work. You have to have a legitimate bank account where they got information on you, not the one from the store. And, you buy them cards. This right here, like from the city right here, I know they're getting tired of eating at the restaurant. They may want to go down there to Jack in the Box, jump on the scooter, go down and get you something different. And I know it's going to move to the college. And also, you guys are going to be getting a little money out of this. Every little bit counts in our general funds. We might as well jump on board It is what it is. You can't say anything about it. You got bicycles, skateboards, they're all around here. And the company that I inquired, because like I said, I was looking in for it for myself, they monitor those scooters. Hell, they can steal it. They got to put it in the back of their truck, but it's got a GPS on it. They just go right to their house and get it, send them on to jail. And but I really think that the city, and it's not no pollution, and we need to save. I think it's a good thing. I really do. And I urge the city council, don't worry about the insurance, all that's covered, because when he put that card in there, they agreed to all the terms. If they hit somebody, they're responsible. I looked in it a little bit. You can nod your head there, David. Yeah, you was talking about the insurance pulling out. You ain't that big of an insurance guy, but it's covered good. And I think, like he said, there's a lot of positive, and it is positive, because
All right, Sebastian, you ready to wrap it up
I
here?
did. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. I thought I had 5 minutes, but anyway, I guess 5 minutes went by. But I think that we really need to uplift Modesto. We can't think old-fashioned. We got to move. You know, we always late on stuff. Let's kind of keep up, and let's do what we need to do in this great city. It's beautiful when you can drive a little scooter and go around the town and get you something else to eat and come on back to the office. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Alvarez? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members of the public. My name is Eric Alvarez. I chair Government Relations Committee for the Central Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Our geographic territory spans across Stanislaus County. Yesterday evening, we submitted, on behalf of our Government Relations Committee, a letter of support, and I'd like to read that letter before you all today. Dear Mayor and Council members, the Central Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is proud to offer our support for BIRD's proposed one-year pilot program operation in the city of Modesto. We are confident a program like this will attract more residents and visitors downtown and enhance their experience, thus contributing to the overall economic vitality of the city. Moreover, BIRD's technology will provide the city with insightful data which can contribute to the decision-making process as we plan to reattract life back into the heart of Modesto and the surrounding areas post-pandemic. Throughout 2022, BIRD has been a valuable partner to approximately 400 cities, as Mr. French outlined a few of those, and helped ensure that those communities have access to affordable and convenient transportation options. We are hopeful the Council shares our sentiment as it pertains to the value of this technology in Modesto, and we hope that the Council will move to approve, at minimum, a one-year pilot program. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other comments from the public regarding this item, number 15? Yes, Josh Bridegroom. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah.
Hi, Mayor, council members. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Yeah, I believe that we have an opportunity here to increase our mobility in our community while also underscoring and highlighting the fact that our downtown and the surrounding environs are becoming a destination environment. And elements that you add in, like that slow traffic down, that create other mobility options, that put outdoor dining spaces in the street, all collectively are a signal to users and to patrons and to guests that they've arrived in an environment that is worthy of valuing, and the city sees the value in that environment and is receptive of partners who are coming to the table to help elevate and increase that value. There were a number of comments made during council discussion on this matter, and many of them are they're all very valuable. But I think we have an opportunity here to do something that moves the needle, and I think that far too often we're looking at the downside as opposed to looking at things from a neutral perspective and saying, what is the upside and what is the downside? What is the calculated risk of moving forward with this? And I think in this regard, when you look around at communities that have scooters, you see that there are these communities are largely communities of place. They're communities that have a value, and they're communities that are valued. The communities that were represented by your staff are handpicked from different areas in California, and are probably communities that are intended to represent in their minds a more socioeconomic match to Modesto. But really, there's like a number of communities in the Bay Area that weren't represented there. There's a number of communities in Southern California that weren't represented there. And I think that it's worth noting that, as was mentioned by the Central Valley Hispanic Chamber, that the expanding mobility provides increased equity for all users in our increasingly diverse city. There are improved technological models that can be employed, as I shared in my email with the council earlier today, that would alleviate a lot of the concerns, both from a liability standpoint and also from a visual and technical clutter standpoint, and could also move toward relieving the city staff of their responsibility associated with this. I'm looking forward to hearing from Bird on what they're able to do to accommodate some of the comments that were provided by council, and I thank you for your time.
You're welcome. All right, any other comments from the public? All right, welcome.
Mayor and Council, nice to be here. My name is Mike Butler. I'm a representative of Bird. Been working with the city staff for a number of months on this. So I just wanted to comment on some of the items that were brought up, but also to make myself available for any questions. As we understand that Jalen, while he has been working on this, is not the expert in the business. That's kind of where I come in. So I think one of the items that I wanted to bring up was specifically around Councilmember Knoyer's question around what happens if someone is involved in some type of incident. This is largely the same process as the city would take right now if someone was involved in any type of scooter, bike, pedestrian incident, which the city has not outlined today. So if there's an incident, then a claim is made, an adjuster is brought out, and someone is made at fault, right? And so the city is not going out today and saying that we're outlawing scooters, we're outlawing bikes, we're outlawing pedestrians. Right now, we're just giving people another avenue to transport about the city. And I think in general, a lot of times that there's perceptions around the safety with this. We've been running this business longer than anyone. We have data on rides and incidents and what that ratio looks like. It's a medical incident rate of once in every 50,000 trips. So we're estimating that there will be close to around 80 to 120,000 trips throughout the pilot period, which is 12 months. That's 2 incidents. I can also name a number of cities here that have, I would say, not as great infrastructure as the city of Modesto. No bike lanes, no wide sidewalks, no nothing. And in their pilot period, there were 0 incidents. So again, I bring this up because I think it's important to understand, if this is a safe service, this is something that is widely trusted through hundreds and hundreds of cities. And the same questions that you're bringing up here, the same questions and comments that Councilmember Wright has, well, these are the same questions that every city has. And yet they've gone through the evaluation and they've determined that this is something that's supplemental to what they're doing. This is something that is an opportunity for the community. So that's what I wanted to bring up, and again, I also just wanted to make myself available for questions, and I'm sure there's plenty.
Mayor, I have one question.
Okay.
What's the top speed of the scooters?
About 16.
I'm sorry?
16.
16 miles per hour?
Yeah.
And do you require the riders to have a liability policy so that if they are in an accident that they cause, that they would pay for the damages that they did?
It is spelled out in the user agreement that someone's not necessarily has a general, I mean, most people don't have any type of general liability policy as it relates to them even walking down the street or being involved in some type of incident. But they do sign a user agreement where they understand.
Well,
hey,
people do have a liability policy. If they own a home,
Yeah.
and if they cause damage when they're walking down the street, the homeowner's policy would cover that. So my question is, if I'm driving a scooter and I hit someone and I do injury to them, is your insurance going to take care of the injuries that the other person caused because of me riding the scooter?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the same type of insurance policy, and everything we have here is the same thing that every city has. So I can't speak on one-offs. I don't know what that process is going to look like. What I do know is that when an incident comes up, it goes through the exact same process with every
Right,
city,
so-
with every user.
So I think what you're saying is basically, if your scooter's at fault for a malfunction, then your liability policy will take over.
Yeah.
But if the scooter is involved in an accident because of the user, and the user did something wrong, the user was drunk, for an example.
Sure.
And they ran into someone and caused major injuries, I don't think your liability policy would cover that.
But that also wouldn't be the case with even any personal vehicle.
Oh, yes, it would.
If someone's riding down the street in a
On a
bicycle, and
personal
that happens,
vehicle?
like a bike, or someone's just walking down the street and bumps
If
into
on
someone.
a bike, on a non-motorized bike, yes, it is covered under the homeowner's policy. So if I'm on a bike and I have a incident that caused an accident, my homeowner's policy, yes, would cover me as the liability portion, whatever liability I did.
Well, yeah, maybe the city attorney can speak on this.
And I think the question from the vice mayor is, does your insurance kick in if anybody's in an accident in one of the Bird scooters? And I think the answer, I think you're correct. Regardless of the other insurance, most likely the way that it's written, at least here, and I think this is the question was for you, I don't think your insurance would kick in because it would be the user's responsibility if they were
Right.
at fault, unless the scooter was malfunctioning or Bird as an agency or whoever is maintaining the scooters, if there was something wrong with the scooter, that is when your insurance most likely would kick in, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what you were saying, right,
Right.
Vice Mayor? I think that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, answered my question.
Thank you. Did you have okay, Councilmember Madrigal?
Just wanted to ask, following up on the maximum speed question, can you reduce the maximum speed?
Yeah, so we program the vehicles to where they can either slow down or actually stop entirely if they reach an exact latitude and longitude. So it's actually far more sophisticated than anyone's even personal car today. It's where if it reaches a certain zone, it can drop down and say, sorry about that. And so it can drop down to a certain speed that could be 10, 12 miles an hour, whatever that is. So again, these are parameters that we have in place with, I would call overly sophisticated cities. These are cities like Rome. These are cities like Berlin. These are cities like Paris, New York City, Los Angeles. And so we've had to develop really, really sophisticated technology to service these markets because the requirements in a city like that, I mean, it's literally the size of a dictionary. And so all we're doing is basically taking that technology, which we've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in, and replicating that to meet the customized needs of every city, this including Modesto.
So, do you have examples of other cities where you reduce the speed less than 60 miles an hour? And, was there less serious injuries? Was there, I don't know, less accidents?
Yeah, I don't know if I have that granular of data, but what I can say is almost every city we operate in, is going to put some type of parameters on, certain neighborhoods, certain locations, parks, downtown areas, whatever that is. So it's not like these things are necessarily, there's not like a before or after data point, but every city probably has these parameters in place.
Could our existing the proposed language in the agreement, does it provide flexibility for, like, say, people from the community, or say us as council members, to provide feedback to staff, and then staff provides feedback to you along the lines of, if they go too fast on the downtown corridor, can they slow them down? Like, and then is there flexibility for then you as a company to reduce the speed, and is it done like from a computer program, or how is it done?
Yeah, so if long you give us about 24 to 48 hour notice of these changes, we can program the vehicles accordingly. You're actually going to have a dedicated account manager. This is the same account manager who runs the programs in Reading and runs the programs in Mammoth and like Tahoe and places like that. This is a point person who is specifically there, whose sole job and income is to ensure the success of this program. So this is someone that Jalen, or whoever wants to be a main point of contact, can reach out to for any type of community feedback, for any type of questions that come up, and different solutions that need to be deployed. For example, there's the Cinco de Mayo parade that's happening. Well, can we program the vehicles where they can't enter the zone? Or there's construction that's happening. Can we program the vehicles where they have to slow down to a certain area because I think it's a little dangerous? Absolutely. This is what we're here for. This is why hundreds and hundreds of cities trust us to help their citizens get around.
Could you talk about the parking and the frequency of, like, I know that the language in the presentation from staff said that there's a minimum of 2 days of picking up the scooters every 2 days. But what actually happens with your fleet manager? Like, how often do they actually get around to it?
Yeah. I think that the 2 days may have been in error. This is actually something that's done basically all day, every day. So the fleet manager's sole responsibility, this is their income because they share the revenue with us, is to ensure that vehicles are deployed, that they're serviced, that they're tidy, that they're repaired, that they're ridden. Because the more rides they get, the more money they're going to make. So that means that part of this is just going through a constant rebalancing, a constant shuffling of different tasks. And that's basically, it's not 24/7, but it's pretty darn close. And the more that they put in, the more that they're going to get out, and the more money they're going to make.
So just following up on that parking and rounding them up, real life scenario. So what are you saying? Like, one person, like, how often are they able to actually get to it per day? Like, are they able to get to all of them per day, or is it really every 2 days, or what's it?
No, it's all day. So, for example, if we had 200 vehicles, strategically placed throughout the city, we would have 2 fleet managers, each handling about 100 vehicles, and they would be constantly touching, constantly looking at vehicles, constantly moving them around, servicing them. And then we even give them an app that shows the exact location of every single one of those vehicles so that they can perform those tasks necessary. So if a vehicle has dropped down to a certain battery, so that means they have to go pick it up and charge it. If that vehicle has been marked as damaged or marked as not being in an ideal location, well, that person has the exact location where that vehicle is and can go retrieve it and move it. And on top of that, we give all app users have the ability to essentially reach out to us. This is either via phone, email, chat. You can you can actually reach out to us via the app itself on where a vehicle is and what needs to be done to resolve that.
So given can staff go back to the map of the presentation, if possible? Well, I'll just ask my question. Maybe you can answer it without it. So given the proposed boundaries for the city of Modesto, like, realistically, how many, I don't know, I'm trying to sound like I'm trying to sound smart about this, but how many touches, if you will these 100 initial scooters get from this one fleet manager, like, on average, like in your guesstimates?
Yeah, they'll be touched every day, assuming that they need to. So if a vehicle is, out on J and 9th, for example, and it's in the right location, but maybe it hasn't been used, well, that vehicle can stay there because it's still in a good spot and a good location. If a vehicle is not in the right spot or not in an ideal location, that's when that person goes out and touch it. So it's really, it's kind of more on an ad hoc basis, and that does give the flexibility of this local business to go around and, just essentially do what needs to be done. But it is something that they're going to do basically, 7 days a week.
So regarding, just following up on touching, do they disinfect them or wipe them down also? I mean, since we're still in this post-pandemic, sort of post-pandemic world?
Yeah, I've seen some pretty interesting measures that they've taken. They can go through what's called a bird wash, of course, because there's a ton of puns with our business. So they're constantly, washing the vehicles, cleaning them, making sure they're upright. And, I think there's incentive for them to do things like that too, and to make sure the public knows this, because, like I said, the more times that they're upright and in the right spots and looking good and that they're tidy, well, that increases the chances that they're actually being used, and that means that they can, make more of an income here.
And then just following up on that, what is the parking, like, could you describe the parking a bit? Like, what does it look like? Like, how big does the sidewalk have to be for it to be allowed on a park? How wide does it have to be for it to go on a sidewalk and have a little, I don't know, I guess a corral? Is it like a little metal gate corral, or is it spray painted on the sidewalk kind of corral, like what I saw in Long Beach, I think, for example? What does that look like? And then what does it look like on the street parking?
Yeah, so we will identify this as part of about 4 to 5 week pre-launch phase that we go through with the city to identify those locations of where the ideal locations to be deploying these vehicles. We don't necessarily propose that there's anything sprayed on the street, on the sidewalk, as we understand that this is a impermanent, this is a temporary program. We don't want to put something on the street that can be seen or construed as being permanent. So those are things that cities have done in the past to say, hey, I think there's a good idea to encourage riders to park in certain areas. Why don't we spend the $50 and put some type of corral on a certain street or a certain corner to, again, kind of encourage this level of tidiness. So that's what other cities have done as they've gone past this pilot program, and they're more into a mature program where they're looking at a multi-year contract.
Okay, and I think I'm getting to the end of my questions. The tidiness, the parking, I think that was it. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions from council members? All right, do you? No, I think. Okay, I have some questions. So what laws are the riders required to abide by?
Yeah, so all California state laws as relates usually to scooters and bicycles. Typically what we do is that if you were to open up the app in Modesto, we can actually flash on the screen an acknowledgement and a rundown of what those local laws are. So these can be customized to Modesto that say, hey, you're not allowed to bike or scooter on this street, you're allowed to bike on this street that goes above 35 miles an hour, there's no riding on sidewalks, helmets are encouraged. So those are things that are actually placed on the app itself. Aside from that, any sort of general laws that they have to follow are laws to the state of California.
Okay, so for bicycles, the same laws as bicycles. Is that what you said?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly? What do you mean by roughly?
Yeah, so I don't have the exact state code between bicycles and scooters, but for virtually all cases, they're pretty much identical.
Okay,
Yeah.
so regarding impaired drivers, it's an electrical vehicle.
You can get a DUI the same way you can get a BUI.
Okay, so who enforces those laws?
We've done some pretty nifty things to where if we find there's a decent amount of kind of late night ridership, we can essentially flash something on the app that asks them, hey, are you visually impaired? We ask them to type out something. So I think it's just an additional layer that we have on there to encourage people to do that. Aside from that, that's a local law enforcement thing, the same way it's local law enforcement with bikes. But yeah, I think it's a really great measure that we do that cars don't do. If you have been drinking, you jump in your car doesn't flash a screen that says, hey, have you been drinking, right? That's not what they do.
Right, yeah.
And so law enforcement would have to be involved there, and that's a similar process with this.
Okay. How about certain roads that are too narrow? For instance, McHenry Avenue is really too narrow to have a scooter on it with the cars there. There's just not enough space between the curb and the cars.
Yeah.
So are they expected to go with the traffic in that case? How does
Yeah.
that work if they're on streets? But the speed limit's 40 miles per hour on McHenry.
Yeah, so that would be illegal. Yeah, so you couldn't be able to ride a bike or a scooter on a street that does not have a bike lane over 35 miles an hour. That's a state law.
Okay.
Yeah. So in theory, that person, there could be a contact involved with local law enforcement, and they could get a ticket. That's not always the case. You know, I think part of this is you know, educating the public on how this works. I think part
Right.
of this is also
Yeah.
understanding that there are a lot of concerns that are going to be here. There are a lot of perceived concerns. There are a lot of concerns that I think candidly will not come to fruition. But as city staff and council members and representatives of the public, it's your job to be worst case scenario people. I get it. The reality of it is that we have data that backs up that that's not simply the case. And the last part, which is something that Jalen French had mentioned, you know, you have the ability to terminate this after even X amount of days. If everything I've said is completely erroneous and everything I've said is wrong, and within the first 90 days you say, this is the worst program we've ever had, I can't believe the council and the mayor approved this, what were we thinking? Well, you can strike this. You would be the first, because out of the 187 cities that we launched last year, 0 of them did that, and almost all of them have actually extended this program beyond the pilot period. But you do have the autonomy. That's where we do that on purpose. So you
And
have
I
that
promise I'm not laughing at you. My children even bought me a game. It was called Worst Case Scenario because of the ER nurse in me. So when you said that,
I get it. I'd be doing the same thing.
Can't
if I were
help
you.
it.
Yeah. I'm with
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you. Any
You
other,
bet.
I guess, public comment still? Thank you so much for your comments. Any other comments from members of the public? Okay.
Thanks.
Looks like it. Thank you very much. All right, so we will go back to council comments. Councilmember Canoyer?
Yes, I do have some comments. I understand why young people, and apparently a lot of young people, more than even middle-aged people, ride these. How many, you know, it's like streets that are over 35. There's sections of Tully. There's, you know, McHenry. And there's quite a few sections that are, that you can't ride these. So you wouldn't be able to ride to a destination if you wanted to go on McHenry. And there's restaurants and places that people would probably want to go on McHenry and Tully. Also, it says here that the city of Modesto gets 10 cents a ride, estimated of $10,000 a year. And then I think Jalen French said that part of that money is going to administration of somebody in the city that has to help oversee this. I'm still concerned about the liability, mainly because these are going to be supposedly used downtown on J Street and 10th Street and 12th Street and 11th Street, 9th Street, the ones down on West Modesto. There's not enough room. The roads, there are no bike lanes. There are no, you know, real good access for this kind of a vehicle. We are already at #1 in accidents. I'm sorry. I just feel that we're just asking for more problem. We can't expect our police to enforce the laws for these people that ride these scooters when we don't even have enough policemen to stop people running red lights. It's probably, maybe, would it encourage more people coming downtown? I really don't know. It's hard for me to believe that. But I think for what it would cost the city one accident would, that's a high liability. So unfortunately, I just still feel that there's not enough there to make me feel that we could really gain from putting out something that might cost us more. So I am going to oppose this resolution.
Right. Thank you. Councilmember Madrigal? Oh, okay. Do you remove your name?
I was hoping to, like, say, make a motion when the time is right.
Okay. This is comment time. So Councilmember Ricky?
Thanks, Mayor. I've had the pleasure of riding these electric scooters in cities all over the country. There's cities that, have a can-do attitude and a positive attitude and optimism. They're optimistic and they're hopeful. And they look into the upside on issues rather than just looking at liability. And that's one of the things that really holds this city back, is that all we talk about is liability and downside. It's really disappointing to hear over and over and over again. If we want this city to be something special, we have to seize some opportunities. We have to try some things. And a pilot project for this, we're talking, 100 scooters maybe? Not even that. 50 is the first run, I think. You're not going to see a big difference at all. If you spend any time downtown, that people are already riding these scooters all over the place every single day. And they're not rental scooters, they own them. So this is already happening. So I think that this is the type of thing that it's a pilot program. There's not a lot of risk here for us. This is something that we should give a try. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Ricky mentioned that other cities are doing this program. Other cities have more resources in their police department. Right now, we're short on officers. We're short on traffic officers. We have calls that are not being answered in our community every day because there's just not enough officers. And my concern is about traffic control. I see a lot of red light runners on bikes. I don't see very many scooters around town. I'm downtown a lot. I haven't seen a scooter downtown, but I see a lot of bikes that are running red lights, and we just don't have the officers out there enforcing the laws that we have. So I'm really concerned about accidents, people on scooters getting hit. We've had several fatalities on bikes so far this year, and I just really concerned about the riders out on the road, and especially the emails that I've received about wanting this has been from high school students. So that really concerns me.
All right. Councilmember Escudia-Brayton?
Thank you, Mayor. I love the idea of incorporating a new idea into a city that brings in fun options, that brings in recreation, that brings in a new form of modality for transportation. And I do think that an electronic scooter does fit into this category. It actually is a really good idea for the right city at the right time. Unfortunately, I don't think that time in the city is Modesto. The one thing that really concerns me is the enforcement part. As was mentioned, the enforcement is going to lie on our public works personnel and our police department. We are so stretched thin in that area already, to the extent that we are, before is considering a 1% sales tax to be put on the ballot. we are super stretched thin, and this is something we might consider and would be a better fit down the road, but right now I don't think it works for Modesto. And it's for that reason that I just at this time do not feel comfortable supporting this agenda item. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Madrigal, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I really would like to urge my colleagues who have concerns to reconsider and to give this a try. The proponent from, the applicant from the committee, the representative from Byrd, they literally said to us just moments ago, we can stop this if it's not working in a month or in 90 days. Not sure if the folks my colleagues that have concerns would be comfortable with a shorter pilot program to then reevaluate and bring it back to council, or have even something more detailed, like say have a 12-month pilot program with monthly reports to the council, just to be able to have a month by month pulse, finger on the pulse of how this program is progressing. We are facing major public transportation projects that are going to be coming to Modesto, that are going to be completed. First of all, the ACE train station is going to be completed in the next few years. We have the Highway 132 project that's going to be completed. And I'm just envisioning having an alternative mode of transportation available for the folks that get off of the ACE train and, for example, see these electric scooters as an option for them to ride throughout our downtown, eat, shop, stay, to enhance their downtown experience. And do it in a way that can be done safely with a fleet manager that's going to start by only managing 50 of these scooters. I hope that we can find a way to get to yes with some conditions, so that instead of one more time sending a message of no. So that's my request to my colleagues, because I don't know, I think tomorrow can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Councilmember Escudio Braden's concern, and very valid, and I would say these are probably the same concerns that every city has. Every city is understaffed right now. Every city doesn't have hugely built out police departments and massive public works departments. I personally work with cities in Kansas and Iowa and Colorado. There's 12,000 people there. They don't have huge police departments to tackle these things, but they went out and said, hey, we trust you to run the business. We trust you to educate the public so that we don't have to, right? And so, again, I think what Councilmember Madrigal said, we're okay even shortening the length of this program because we are so confident that police department is not going to be stretched thin, public works is not going to be stretched on thin, and if they are, again, we can pull out. If after 2 months it turns out that they're overstaffed, they're overworked, that's fine. So I think we would be okay doing that.
Okay, thank you. Are you done with your comments, Councilmember? I had a comment too.
Yeah, I feel that he addressed some of the comments that I was trying to get at.
Okay, public comment period is ended, so I think we're just going to end it at that. And Tony, you go right ahead if you have a comment to make.
Thank you. So, I'd be willing to when it comes time to make a motion, I'd be willing to do a shorter, pilot program if that's something that, the rest of the council members would feel more comfortable with as a way to know that there's a shorter, a shorter end period to test out our experience, especially since we're going into the summer months where it's, for example, not going to be so rainy and wet out there as to, create a climate for, say, accidents and whatnot because the roads were wet, for example.
All right. I'd like to make a comment. I will try to articulate my comments as briefly as I can, taking into all the considerations that we've heard. Weather in California is beautiful. That's not a problem for me. I feel I'm an optimist. And I'm very optimistic about Modesto and our future. I would like to look at our future in terms of concepts rather than specific programs. We're looking at a general plan update. We talk about the ACE train, the courthouse, potentially a coliseum. There's all sorts of things in the works that we are preparing for. I would like to see the structure with those concepts built around utilizing something like this. For instance, we talk about using the scooters primarily downtown, but we don't have bike lanes downtown. However, we are one of the top 10 cities in the United States of America for bike trails and road paths. So we have a lot in place for something like this to be very successful. I'm just going to get to the quick. We have the trip, all these things that we've mentioned that are just, we're really setting ourselves up for something like this to be very, very successful. However, at this moment in time, when it comes down to enforcement, it's going to come down to our police department. And we all know, it may be the same way in other cities, but we know that our bicyclists are at higher risk in Modesto than other cities. I live by McHenry Avenue. We all know, if you read the articles and the reports and the MPD reports, we know what's happening. And it's pretty tragic in a lot of circumstances. So at this time, I feel like we would be asking MPD to do more, to do a lot more with less resources. And as we'll hear, as we know, with our budget workshops, that's a problem. So I will be voting no, as it is written. So I would suggest at this point that we take a vote, and I will defer to the city attorney at this point, since another option has been proposed, how I should move forward.
Well, Mayor, we would need a motion first, and I know council members would, I know there's a request to make a motion, and the council member would be able to make whatever motion they would like, whether it be to approve the resolution, whether it be to approve the resolution amended. But that would be, you would need a motion, a second, and then we would see where the vote would go.
All right, so do I have a motion regarding the resolution presented before us?
I do. I'd like to move the staff recommendation with the amendment that the pilot program be a 3-month pilot program. I welcome a second.
Second.
All right. So should I go forward with that motion or, okay. So this would be a resolution approving the creation of a pilot program to allow the use of a shared mobility service of stand-up electric scooters in the city of Modesto and issuing a shared mobility permit to Bird Rides Incorporated with such terms and conditions defined by the operating agreement and as determined necessary by the city manager and authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the agreement.
And it would be as amended.
As amended for a 3-month pilot program. Do I have a motion?
You made the motion. You have a
Sorry,
second.
you had a motion. Do I have a second? I think I
You have
did,
one.
right?
Correct.
Councilmember Ricky.
Councilmember
All
Ricky.
right, will the city clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer. No. Vice Mayor Wright.
No.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton.
No.
And Mayor Zwellen.
No. So it fails 4-2.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward the resolution as presented.
So the resolution as presented would be for the 12-month pilot period.
Oh,
I-
wait, I'm sorry, go on. Please
the-
clarify what the motion would be.
I don't think we would need a motion. If
Oh,
the
okay.
council wanted to make a motion to not move forward at this time and make that official, that's a perfect motion to make. I think that you had a motion on the floor that failed. You're able to make a motion if you would like. If there are no other motions, we just move on because the motion failed.
Got it.
However, if council wants to make a motion to not move forward at this time, that's perfectly fine as well for the record.
Okay, so, pardon me, may I clarify? A yay vote on this matter would do what? And a no vote would do say what?
The motion that was just presented.
No, not that motion that was presented.
The motion, the resolution that's before you, the resolution has the adoption of the pilot program.
Okay.
So that's what's before the council for consideration.
To adopt the resolution.
Correct.
So a vote of yes, adopting the resolution will implement the program for you.
Correct.
A vote no for adopting the resolution would,
And I see exactly why it's confusing. Staff really is bringing this resolution for council consideration. So council considered it. There was a motion made to adopt this resolution that staff put before the council for consideration, but for only a 3-month pilot period. That motion has failed. At this point, it's open for other motions. And if there are no other motions, we move on because there's no other motions made, and the motion made didn't receive the right votes. Now, for the record, Councilmember, I think that would be perfectly fine to just make a motion to not move forward with the resolution or the pilot program if that's what you were intending, and then we could take a vote on that if the council wants to make that motion. And then that seals it. And your motion, a yes vote would be not to move forward.
equally, not making any motion does the same thing.
Yes, if we don't have other motions, this item does die.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your consideration.
Madam Mayor?
It's done.
Do you have a comment?
Well, I just hoping that, just in the interest of discussion, is there any interest in trying this out even for 1 month among the council? I mean, since we're discussing the business of the public and the public, I want to know.
How would we move forward with that suggestion?
Make another motion.
If there's another motion to consider that,
Well, I was hoping that I could just engage in public discussion with my colleagues to, test their appetite for that before putting forward such a motion and then
I
going through
think that the
process.
procedure would say that you need to make the motion, and then we'd have something to actually,
Okay, I move approval of the staff recommendation with the amendment to move forward with a 1-month pilot program instead of a 12-month pilot program. And I welcome a second.
and you've read the resolution already.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Oh, okay, fine.
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
No.
Vice Mayor Wright.
No.
Councilmember Scutia Brayton.
No.
And Mayor Zwellen.
No.
And Mayor, maybe I would recommend, given that there's multiple motions of different variation, if the council's not interested at this time to move forward, maybe if we could just make a motion to not move forward at this time, and if that gets a second, just vote on that, and that just ends the conversation for the record.
Madam Mayor?
Uh-huh.
Just another option would be, I just want to state publicly, I will not be making any additional motions.
All right. Thank you.
You want to go ahead and do it?
I think that ends the conversation. We can conclude.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and make a motion that we do not move ahead on the pilot program for the scooters.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a motion by Councilmember Canoyer and a second by Vice Mayor Wright.
Point of order? Just wanted to ask, I wanted to ask for the intent of the motion maker and the motion second. Is that to not move forward at this time or just ever in Modesto?
At this time.
If you, I want to know because I want to
To move
specifically.
forward at this time.
I wanted to ask if that's also the intent of the seconder of the motion. Okay.
Yes.
The reason I asked for the clarification is I hate for a future council to feel like their hands were tied when it comes to bringing up this issue ever again, you know, at a later date.
I appreciate your concern.
I agree with you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal,
No.
Councilmember Ricky,
No.
Councilmember Canoyer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright,
Aye.
Councilmember Scutier-Brayton,
Aye.
and Mayor Zwollen.
Aye. Carries 4-2. All right, next we will move on to item 16. Consider accepting funds from the California Water and Wastewater Area. I always have a hard time with that word.
Arrears.
Arrears, I can say, arrearage. Payment program for wastewater arrearage in an amount not to exceed $1,332,915 and approving participation in the California Department of Community Service and Developmental Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, and amending the fiscal year 2021-22 operating program budget in the amount of $1,332,915 in the sewer fund to recognize grant revenue from the State Water Resource Board, California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program offsetting delinquent account balances for sewer utility accounts. Welcome, Deanna Christensen from Finance.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Deanna Christensen, Director of Finance, and we're here to give you an update on the California Water Wastewater Arrears Payment Program and a request for approval for a new state program called the Low Income Household Assistance Program. So just to provide some background on the California Water Arrears Program, so with the COVID impacts, it has economically impacted a lot of our utility customers and being able to pay their utility bills. The state established an assembly bill as well as a Senate bill that provided $1 billion to the State Water Resource Control Board to administer this California Water Wastewater Arrears Payment Program to address the delinquency associated with past due on utility bills. We did come before council in March 8th to request approval through this program. They have structured it in two tranches of funding, the first one being the water portion, which again was the approval that we came before you in March to request $2.7 million that we would receive to address the water arrears side. And just to reiterate, the relief funding only covers what's called the COVID relief period, which falls in between March 4th of 2020 through June 15th of 2021. Specifically with the water funding that we received, we have posted it on the utilities customer accounts for the water utility, which as we went through, and I think we mentioned when we took the item that if there was additional funding that had been provided through another federal or state program, they couldn't get double funding. So after we did that review, we ended up only being able to apply $2.2 million, and we did receive a portion of administrative funding to address staff's time. So the difference, which equates to a little over $400,000, was returned back to the state for the water portion. So to give the timeline, again, on the wastewater portion of the program, we did also capture in the council item to get approval to submit the application for the wastewater portion of the arrears program. We were notified last month that we would receive the funding, and in the application we ended up receiving $1.3 million of past due wastewater utilities, again for that COVID relief period. In the notification, we are anticipated to receive the actual funding within 4 to 6 weeks, which should range around the hopefully end of May, early June.
And then the goal is, especially since we've already gone through the process to apply the water utility credits, it should go significantly more quicker. And we are anticipating to be able to post the credit for the wastewater funding for that period by the end of June. And just to remind the requirements of the program, we are required to waive all late fees associated with the arrears associated with the wastewater program for that relief period. And we have to notify all the customers that are receiving that credit what the amount is that will be applied against their account. There is still a possibility that there is still going to be a past due balance for outside of that COVID relief period. So just making sure that our utility customers are aware of payment plan arrangements that we can make and ensuring that we do our due diligence of enrolling those customers into that payment program within the 30-day period. So just this highlights the number of customers that will receive this funding. So there'll be a little over 5,600 of residential customers that will receive the funding for the wastewater portion, and then about 83 commercial customers for a total of a little over 5,700. So the new program that we're also capturing as part of this item is a new state program that was just recently pushed from the California State of Community Development Services. The state has allotted $116 million for this funding. It is a one-time funding to help. It states in the name it is the low-income household water assistance program, but it does also include wastewater. This will address any past due period, so it doesn't fall under that COVID relief period. But it is a requirement that they do meet the eligibility requirements of the program, which is based on their monthly household income or being enrolled in another federal assistance program, such as the ones that are mentioned are the CalWorks, CalFresh, or the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. So if they can show that they are already enrolled in one of those programs, then they would automatically enroll in this new program. It will require the customer to enroll into the program. So once the state pushes out the enrollment side, which at this point has not been pushed out, they are anticipating customers can begin enrolling by June. And then the enrollment period will be open until August of 2023 until the funding runs out. So we have worked closely with our communication team in the city manager's office to identify the different ways we will outreach and work with our utility customers to make them aware of the program, using our distribution communication that we have with customers that are already enrolled in our utility assistance program, and making them aware, as well as participating in as much of our community events, such as through our senior center or other partners with the different community centers, to again provide that hands-on, in-person support on helping customers enroll into the program. So before you today are the two recommendations that the mayor mentioned. The second portion is amending the budget to account for the funding that we are going to get in the wastewater fund associated with the California Water Arrears Program. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions from council members. Councilmember Ricky?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, a Madrigal?
Old. I have a question.
Okay, Council. Escudia Brayton?
Can you? Thank you for that report. I thought I heard you say that the customer would have to make the request and prove enrollment in order to qualify, I forgot how you said it, in order to qualify or in order to participate in the program?
Correct. So they have to show eligibility of the low income, and there's two ways that they can do that.
But can we cut out the middleman? Can we eliminate a step and enroll customers who we know through our utility programs meet that criteria?
Because it's a state program, we have no control in alleviating the middleman, since they're the ones that are managing the program, other than do as much outreach and communication and direction in regards to what the instructions are to show that proof.
The risk we have in that is that this is a very valuable program that would benefit a lot of people, but some, even through the most efforts that we have in communicating it to a broad spectrum of people, someone may not receive this opportunity and therefore not apply. So there is no way to automate that and just apply the credit without the application being received.
We can work with our contacts through the state to see what opportunities are available, but based on what we're hearing currently is they would have to show proof directly through the state program site that they're setting up.
Thank you.
I have a question. So do the bills come out in paper form for this? So people are made aware that they're behind?
Correct. On their statements, it would identify if there's any past due balances, as well as anyone that's past due, they would get delinquent notices of past due balances.
So with those, could there just be like an insert that says this can go away by?
Correct. That's 100% part of the outreach program, is to establish a utility insert and again, try to provide as much communication, but to Council Member Escucha Brayton's, it's still going to be the onus of the customer to enroll into the program.
Right, yeah. I hear that loud and clearly. All right, thank you. Any other questions from council members? Vice Mayor Wright.
Thank you. You know, the rental program, reimbursement program that we had was a disaster, in my opinion. I had quite a few renters that just had a hard time navigating and getting response. And I just hope we do a better job on this so we can help renters and residents that are behind on those bills, so that, you know, it's great that we're going to send them something, but when they call in, hopefully we'll have some kind of help that really guide them through the system. Because a lot of the times, government puts a lot of paperwork, a lot of things in front of them that a lot of people don't understand. And that's my concern, to make sure that we really help our citizens to get reimbursed on this.
All right, any other questions for Deanna this time? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Welcome, Loretta.
Yes. I've waited all this time just for this crazy stuff. I want to also know, will this is just for the water, or will this all be connected any at all with our water lines?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that question.
Well, our water lines, for instance, at my home, it comes from the alley. The city one year ruined mine. I get no water in properly. But I do not have a high water bill right now because I can't use hardly any water because of those water lines that went in years ago. So I want to know, will any of this money come from that kind of work also, or is it just for people who pay for the water that we use?
Okay. You know what I'm going to do, Loretta? When we're done with the item, I want you to talk to Deanna specifically about your situation or address that can be followed up at a later time. All right. Any other comments from the public regarding item 16? Seeing none, comments from council?
Motion to approve?
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Vice Mayor Wright and a second from Councilmember Canoyer. Will the clerk please call the roll? Oh, wait, I better read this, sorry. This is a resolution accepting funds from the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program for wastewater arrearage in an amount not to exceed $1,332,915 and approving participation in the California Department of Community Services and Development Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. Resolution amending the fiscal year 2021-22 operating program budget in the amount of $1,332,915 in the Sewer Fund 4210 to recognize grant revenue from the State Water Resource Board, California Water and Wastewater Arrearage payment program offsetting delinquent account balances for sewer utility accounts. And I have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia-Brayton. And Mayor Zwollen.
Aye, so it carries 6-0. Thank you. Next item is item 17, consider and review the draft budget as submitted by the city manager with the mayor's final budget modifications and combining the documents into the proposed budget for the fiscal year 2022-23 and noticing a public hearing to be held on June 7th, 2022 for council's consideration and adoption of the fiscal year 2022-23 proposed budget and related actions. Welcome, Stephen Christensen from Finance for our staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm glad Deanna went through her item quickly. I have a 73-slide presentation for you tonight. No, I'm just kidding. This will be a fairly quick item. It's kind of a recap, and then we'll go through, and the mayor will get to read her final budget modification letter. So as an introduction, going through the charter section related to the mayor's final budget modifications. So the mayor is to prepare and deliver final budget modifications to any draft budget at least 30 days prior to the new fiscal year. Following the receipt of that budget modifications, council will consider and review any changes and make recommendations. Basically, you're combining that document with the draft proposed budget that was presented during the Finance Committee workshops, and that will become the proposed budget that we will set a hearing for, hopefully at this meeting at the end of this item. And that hearing date will be, we'll set a notice for that hearing that will be published not less than 10 days prior to said hearing. And then at that time of the public hearing, as determined by council, so when we set that date for the proposed budget, any interested persons will be heard at that meeting and given that opportunity. So just to recap the general fund budget balancing strategies that we went over during the Finance Committee budget workshops, the general fund had a total revenue of $166.5 million. Total expenditures were $174.6 million, which left us with an estimated shortfall of about $8.1 million. So with that $8.1 million shortfall, there were some adjustments that were proposed as part of the budget, which were about $80,000, net $80,000, and then we had a remaining shortfall of about $8.18 million. So to close that shortfall, we had a number of reductions and some revenue increases to close that gap. We had some additional revenue from departments of about $222,000. We had the freezing of 10 vacant positions across the departments. Some of these, the majority of them were in the police department, and then some of them in the community and economic development, the city manager's office, and some of the other departments. There was discretionary reductions across all of the various general fund departments of about $700,000. There was some additional staffing savings in the fire department and the office of the city auditor for about $470,000. And then we also implemented a workers' compensation rate reduction, which was about $860,000 in savings to the general fund, and then another $220,000 in the non-general fund areas. Again, you can see the $80,000 in the approved adjustments there, which was an increase to the expenditure side. And then we also implemented the use of $4.5 million on American Rescue Plan Act funding. That $4.5 million is used for public safety, COVID-related expenditures, which could be public safety labor related to COVID time that they are out there in the field using for, or PPP expenses and things like that. So that left us with $8.19 million in terms of reductions and revenue increases, which closed that shortfall of $8.18 million. So that's again how we balance the general fund budget. Looking at the non-general fund areas, giving a breakdown of all of our other non-general fund budgets. Internal service funds, which was about $93 million. This is all of our internal service fund areas, which include information technology, the fleet funds. Those are probably some of the larger ones. We have some of our workers' compensation funds, employee benefit funds, things like that. And then you go down into our enterprise funds with the water fund, the wastewater fund. And then you can see going down through our total non-general fund areas is about $336 million. All told, the proposed budget is about $508 million for the city. So quite a large budget for the city of Modesto. So that's what we went through for the Finance Committee budget workshops, and that's what was presented as the draft budget from the city manager side. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the mayor, and she can go through her final budget modifications.
All right, this is to the citizens of Modesto and the members of the city council. It is with great honor and respect that I present for your consideration the proposed fiscal year 2022-23 operating and multi-year budget for the city of Modesto. This budget reflects a coordinated effort between the city council, city manager, city staff, and myself, and is guided by the policies and priorities set forth in the city's strategic plan. While Modesto is addressing the challenges brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, the city continues to remain vigilant of future economic uncertainties as inflation continues to rise. While the health emergency is not yet over, the city is making its way towards recovery, but has been heavily aided by the use of one-time American Rescue Plan Act funds. The operating budget presented here is balanced through a number of discretionary reductions, vacant position reductions, and the use of one-time ARPA funds. The total proposed operating budget is $508 million. Of this, $171.4 million is allocated to the general fund. In the proposed budget, the city's general fund is facing a shortfall, with expenditures exceeding revenues by $8.1 million. Expenditure growth continues to outpace the growth of revenues, which has contributed to this shortfall. Throughout the budget building process, departments have been faced with analyzing current staffing and expenditure budgets while maintaining levels of service that our residents expect and deserve. The amounts set forth in the proposed budget include freezing 10 vacant general fund positions, which continues the city's efforts to strategically reduce the workforce wherever efficiencies can be gained. Staffing continues to be an area of focus as we move to effectively deliver services while also balancing the future impact of pension costs. To assist in paying down future peak years of pension costs, city staff has developed, with council approval, a Section 115 pension trust fund to help lower said payments. In March of 2020, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act. This provided $45.9 million in funds to the city of Modesto. The city has programmed the first allocation of ARPA funds across various areas to create a lasting impact upon the city of Modesto. Programs such as the forestry program enhancements, small business support, community support for much needed causes like the Children's Museum and the Awesome Spot. The city is set to receive the second allocation of ARPA funds, and your city council is working hard to ensure that a comprehensive plan is developed for the use of said funds that will ensure that the city receives a lasting and fulfilling benefit for many years to come. As mayor, the charter dictates that I prepare and deliver to the council any final budget modifications to the draft budget. At this time, I have no modifications and recommend that the draft budget, which has been a coordinated effort between the council members, city staff, and myself, be moved forward for consideration by the council in June as the proposed budget. I look forward to a successful collaboration with my council colleagues and to the partnerships with individuals and organizations throughout the city to address issues like homelessness and blight and to continue the work on economic development, affordable housing, and Forward Together. Thank you to our council, staff, and community for the support I have received as mayor of our city and for all you have done to improve the quality of life in Modesto. I sincerely appreciate you all.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have to, excuse me, we have to go to council questions.
I thought it was getting late.
Seeing no questions from the council. Questions?
So if you could go to that slide number 5, please. I think that the one before that, that one. So I know, my question has to do with the orange or, dark yellow line about the American Rescue Plan Act funding, one-time funds, use of $4.5 million to basically help with our, budget shortfall. So, as you know, we always talk about, the practice of using one-time funds for ongoing costs as being, an unsustainable practice. And so we're using this $4.5 million this year. And I just wanted to highlight that is at the same time feeling like, well, we're rescuing our budget using these American Rescue Plan funds. I wonder what other measures would we normally have gone through had we not had that funding available to us? I know that we had like these 5 different these 5 different reductions that we went through on this same sheet right here. But what are some, if you could, I don't know, if you could remember off the top of your head, what are some of the other stuff that we've done? Have the cuts just been deeper in the past, or what's?
Well, so as one of my old English teachers would tell me, you've hit the nail on the head or hit it right on the nose. So
Yeah.
that is one of the things we face. So in the past 2 years, using these American Rescue Plan Act funding, which is one-time funds, as you mentioned, this has saved us from making those deeper cuts, because these deeper cuts that we would be facing next year without additional revenue is going to be program cuts. They are going to be deeper cuts. They're going to be positions, program areas. I'm sure that, I know Joe wants to chime in because he has a lot more detail that he wants to get out in this, but they're going to be people, positions, programs, large program areas that we're going to have to cut. Those areas where we used to take in the past, where we were taking larger rate holidays or rate reductions across maybe employee benefit fund in terms of the internal service fund charges, we can't keep doing that. So those one-time areas that we had in the past where we would take from internal service funds and things like that, those are kind of gone now. So they are going to be program cuts. They are going to be real deep cuts that could potentially be felt by the citizens.
So, sorry if I missed it, but could you elaborate on what are the 10 frozen vacant positions?
Yeah, so they are 7 police officer positions that are vacant. These are all vacant positions. 7 police officers, 1 police captain, 1 cultural services manager, 1 senior business analyst in CED, and 1 financial analyst, 3 in the budget division.
So what's the difference between freezing a vacant position versus eliminating a vacant position?
So when you freeze the vacant position, the hope is that maybe funding will become available, maybe revenues increase to where you can restore that position in the future year. Maybe you reevaluate your programs, and maybe that position is something that you need in the future year, and maybe another position is something that you don't need. So by not eliminating it completely, it's not something where then you have to come back for a reestablishment of that position through council through the next city budget.
So what's the cost what's the savings difference between freezing versus eliminating?
It's the same. It's just, like I
Okay.
said, it's more of a program thing.
Okay. So the follow-up question I had to do with, I don't know, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, again, we're using one-time strategies to balance this budget. This has been an ongoing practice that we've utilized. I've been here for 10 years, and I've basically seen this every year since I've been here. If we were to make these actual reductions, the cuts would be deep and they would be severe. And not only that, they would be most likely in the public safety arena. Again, we're 81% public safety. Even if we were to eliminate the remainder of the organization and not touch public safety, I do not believe we can close that $8.19 million gap. So no matter what we would have to do to balance that budget without using one-time resources would be a dramatic hit to public safety as well.
Okay. So just the other question I had to do with the remaining expected American Rescue Plan funding. Do you know, or does somebody from staff happen to know when we're expecting to bring, have staff bring back the recommendations for the use of the second tranche of funding?
Yeah, they're coming to the Finance Committee on May 23rd.
May 23rd?
Yes.
And then to council
and then
this
it'll come
month?
to no, it'll likely come to council on the same day that the budget is brought forth, which is June 7th, if the Finance Committee makes a recommendation to move something forward.
Okay. Those are my two questions about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions from council members? Seeing none, any comments from the public? Not at this time. Comments from council members?
Yeah, I have a comment. I want to thank Councilmember Magico for pointing that out, that we're using, $4.5 million of a rescue just to balance our budget. And I think, we here on the council know that, but sometimes we don't. We need to say it more often. People need to realize the financial strain that we are on here in the city. And I appreciate you bringing that up and letting our citizens know. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from council members? All right. We have a resolution combining the city manager's draft budget and the mayor's final budget modifications into the proposed budget for fiscal year 2022-23 and noticing a public hearing to be held on June 7th, 2022 for council's consideration and adoption of the fiscal year 2022-23 proposed budget and related actions. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Mayor Wright.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Escutia Brayton. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Madrigal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky. Aye. Councilmember Canoyer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Escutia Brayton.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye. Carries 6-0. Excuse me. Are there any matters? Thank you very much, Stephen, for your work and your presentation and help. Appreciate you very much. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I'm calling the meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.